Here we go on a happy hour Friday. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And if you're watching the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, I am your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning is producing today's show. You out there, happy hour Friday, everybody. A lot to get into. Phillies start the second half of their season tonight, actually today, and the lineup is out. I'll get that to you coming up in just a little bit. Also, no Aaronola in this series, but we do know when he will pitch again. Team USA Basketball has announced that JaVale McGee has been added to the team. And if you thought, like, what? Wait, who? They actually have a player that you've never heard of also on the team. They were considering Tobias Harris, but I guess Tobias Harris is out of the country. I don't know what's going on with that. But the whole Olympic thing's a mess right now. Obviously, the Ben Simmons stuff continues because why does it continue? Well, there was a tweet earlier today from a Washington Wizards reporter. I don't know why a Washington Wizards reporter would have this inside information or have any insight to this, but one Washington Wizards reporter tweeted out just recently that there are two teams that Dame Lillard would like to be traded to. One, the New York Knicks, and two, the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, why would Dame Lillard want to be traded to the Philadelphia 76ers? Right? Why would, this is from Quentin Mayo, at the real Quentin Mayo. He does have the blue check mark for whatever that's worth. It says, host of BetMGM Tonight, Washington Wizards insider. And he tweets, Dame Lillard would like to be traded to the Philadelphia 76ers or New York Knicks, sources tell me. Now, I don't know much about Quentin Mayo. I don't know the man at all. I'm not here to question his sources. I'm not here to question his integrity. But what I would say is, why would Dame Lillard say to anybody, the two teams I'm interested in are the Knicks and the Sixers? What is it about the Knicks and the Sixers that Dame Lillard says they're the two teams? They could pretty much go to anyone. Right? You could pretty much say, if you're Damian Lillard, he could go to any team that he wants to. Why would he pick the Philadelphia 76ers? And the question about that would be, the answer that I could give you about that might be, I should say, is, hey, you want to play with Joel Embiid? Is Joel Embiid the reason? Is that the selling point, I guess, which is what you should say, that you would say, I want to play for the Sixers? I don't know what the selling point to play for the Knicks would be, other than, hey, I want to play in New York, I want to go to Madison Square Garden, yada, yada. That hasn't been a selling point for years. Do they have a player that Dame Lillard wants to play with? I don't think so. So you're either, if these reports are true, if these sources are true, and Dame Lillard wants to go to two teams, Philadelphia and New York, Philadelphia has a huge leg up in this situation, if you ask me, for a couple of reasons. One, they have a tradable commodity, Ben Simmons. Two, they are a more competitive team, the number one seed in the East. Three, they have the best player of the two teams, by far, not close, Joel Embiid. We could probably put 4, 5, and 6 as to why Philadelphia is a more attractive option than the New York Knicks before we get to Madison Square Garden and playing in New York. Now, I'm not, again, questioning the validity of these reports. I don't know that if reports is the right word even to use. I don't know. A speculation, rumors. I mean, the gentleman tweeted, sources tell him that Dame Lillard would like to be traded to one of two teams, Philadelphia or the New York Knicks. So, and there's more, right? There's more here because obviously people see this and they start throwing packages together. So I'm going to read off a trade that I saw that was put together from somebody, I don't remember who basically said, okay, Dame Lillard wants to play to Philadelphia. Here's the deal that would get it done, or what you should offer them. So I'll throw this deal out to you guys, and you tell me whether or not you think this deal is fair, too much. Let me know. 609-403-0973. Philadelphia receives Damian Lillard. Portland receives, ready? Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, 2 future first-round picks, 2022 and 2024. Do you make that deal? 609-403-0973. I know on the surface, everybody says, I want Ben Simmons gone. Get him out of here. I do the deal. Dame Lillard comes here. You've got Dame Lillard. You've got Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, and what else? Well, you don't have Matisse Thybulle anymore taking over for Danny Green, and I think Danny Green is 50-50 to come back. You don't have Tyrese Maxey anymore, and you don't have Ben Simmons. So you have 3 rotational players that are gone. So you essentially have Dame Lillard, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Shake Milton, Seth Curry. And I'm not sitting here telling you that you shouldn't consider trading for Dame Lillard. I'm asking, is giving up Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, and 2 future first-round picks don't really bother me all that much. They don't really bother me all that much. Look, the player Maxey and Thybulle, I'm very willing to move those players. I'm not married to those 2 guys. But moving all 3 of them, I'm just wondering, taking your temperature out there, do you think that's too much? Does Dame Lillard and Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris and Shake Milton and Seth Curry, does that team put you in the same argument or same conversation, I guess I should say, as the Brooklyn Nets? Because when the Brooklyn Nets are back together, it's going to be Harden, it's going to be Kyrie, and it's going to be Durant. And if you want to put the team that is in place right now with the Milwaukee Bucks, they'll be back again as well. With Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So how can the Philadelphia 76ers, how can they land Dame Lillard? Is that the package that would have to be put together to get it done? Is that too much, too little? You guys tell me. 609-403-0973. I'll read off some of what you guys think, and then I'll kind of decipher for myself. I already have an opinion of this, okay? I already know how I feel about this situation, that trade offer right there. But I'm just interested to take the temperature of the people out there. Jay and EHT says, I make that deal, but no Maxey. Book it. Well, Jay, I got to be honest with you. I think Maxey might be a key to that deal. I'm losing Dame Lillard. I got to get back. Well, I mean, you might say you're losing Dame, but you're getting Ben Simmons. But I think if you're the Portland Trailblazers, Maxey's a big part of that deal. So I don't know that gets it done if you take just Thybulle and Ben. I would be more willing to probably give Maxey up than Thybulle at this point. Because if I'm losing Ben Simmons, I need that defensive presence. I need that perimeter defender in Thybulle. So I would almost disagree with you, Jay, and I would say Simmons and Maxey instead of Simmons and Thybulle. 609-403-0973. Mike, you are losing a lot of defense with that trade, but for Dame, I think you pull the trigger. Now, that is a well-thought-out, rational answer right there. Thank you, sir. Yeah, you are losing a lot of defense. Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle leaving. Who is the perimeter defenders on this team? Seth Curry, you saw what happened to him in the playoffs. He got shredded. Who's defending in a NBA playoff series? Who is defending your Trae Youngs? Who is defending your Kevin Durant's? Who is defending your Kyrie Irving's, your James Harden's? Who is defending those guys? Dame Lillard's a great player, but Dame Lillard has been knocked out of the playoffs in the first round 5 out of 8 times. Why? Because Portland couldn't defend you, me, and Josh. If we put a team together, Portland can't defend us. That's why they're interested in Ben Simmons to begin with. Over on the text board, Matt in Cape May Courthouse says, absolutely, positively, no way. No. Giving too much up. I'm keeping Matisse no matter what if I'm giving up Ben. Yep, Matt, you and I are on the same page. Right? On the same page. More text message. Mike, you said the Sixers were going to get a haul for Simmons, and GM's value is so much higher than the fans. That's not a haul. You're getting Dame Lillard. That's a haul to me. I don't know what you think a haul is, but if I'm getting Damian Lillard, that's a haul. Dame Lillard is a bigger haul than any. You're looking at as a haul as the amount of things you're getting in return. A haul to me is getting back a first-team All-NBA type of player. If you don't think that's a haul, I got news for you. You're sitting on the island by yourself. Dame Lillard is a haul. That's what a haul is. When I say I'm getting a haul back in return, it is. I'm getting a player that could change my team. That's what a haul is. If you want to say haul as in 3 people, 5 draft picks, or whatever you think it is, no. Dame Lillard is a haul. If you trade Ben Simmons and the return is you got Dame Lillard, you don't think that's a haul for Ben Simmons, who people think his value is so low right now, and you ended up with Dame Lillard? You don't think that's a haul? Woo, man. It is happy hour Friday, but you're starting to hit it a little early there, Mr. 305. Barely after 2 o'clock. Ease off, buddy. I mean, I don't know about you. If I told you, as low as Ben Simmons' value seems to be right now, that in return for a guy who everybody thinks his value is as low as can be, and he got you back Dame Lillard, you don't think that's a haul? 28 points a game? Whew, man, we definitely have different views on what kind of return Dame Lillard is. Maybe you don't like Dame Lillard all that much. You're not paying to get rid of Ben Simmons. You are, look, the spare part pieces, Tyrese Maxey, nice player. I like Tyrese Maxey. Matisse Thybulle, on the surface, if you ask me, is that a fair trade? That's a fair trade. I'm not saying it's not. The question I would have if you're the Sixers is, defensively, what happens? What do you get defensively? What happens to your team defensively? Who's left on the roster that can play defense? I don't care about getting rid of Maxey, but if I'm getting rid of both Simmons and Thybulle, now all of a sudden I have defensive issues. Can Dame Lillard fix them? The problem I have with Dame Lillard is he's a great player. He is a haul all by himself. But Dame Lillard has been knocked out of the playoffs 5 out of 8 times in the first round because not a great defender. Team has not been a great defensive team. If I'm losing Thybulle and I'm losing Simmons, what do I have left? Well, Seth Curry, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, maybe George Hill, Shake Milton. And that's really it. There's not a whole heck of a lot here. Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed. So do they have enough depth? All of that stuff comes into play. 609-403-0973. So Dame Lillard apparently would like to be traded to the Sixers or the Knicks. And I go back to that question. Mike, you said the Sixers were going to get a haul for Simmons. First off, that is one trade offer. They've got about 5 already, and I would imagine they're going to continue to come in. As we said, if you get Dame Lillard in return, that's a haul. Whatever they get in return. Now, if your haul in your mind is getting more players, you know, a trade where you get multiple, not superstar level players, but a couple of secondary players, they'll get those offers as well. They're going to get offers. They've already did. Malcolm Brogdon, a first-round pick. That's not enough. You don't do that deal. But some of the other stuff from the Kings, you know, the Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and 3 first-round picks. Guess what? That's a haul. You get 3 first-round picks, Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield. No, I don't like that deal. I'd rather have Ben Simmons on my team. But if you trade Ben Simmons one guy and get Bagley, Buddy Hield, and 3 first-round picks, that would constitute in getting a haul back in return. It's not the haul that I'm looking for, but meaning you got a ton of value for one player. Now, in this situation, you're giving Ben Simmons to Portland. You're getting back by far the better player in the deal. Dame Lillard's a better player than Ben Simmons is. Now, in return, you're losing a couple of secondary pieces. Anytime secondary pieces are involved in the trade, you make that deal. The first-round picks are inconsequential. The Sixers would be a number 1 or number 2 or number 3 seed with those guys. So you don't have to worry about where your pick is because it's going to be in the 20s. 609-403-0973. Let's go over to the video stream and see what you guys are saying over there. SLR is watching on YouTube. Says, Ben, Maxey, Shake, 2 first, 2 second for Dame. I would do everything to keep Matisse because you're losing defense with Ben. Well, I like that answer. Ben, Maxey, and Shake, 2 first and 2 seconds for Dame. So you're trying to sweeten the pot by taking Matisse out and adding 2 first-round picks or 2 second-round picks. Not sure that gets it done. Here's the problem. The team you're dealing with, Portland, horrible defensive team. They rather Matisse than Maxey if they're me. If I'm Portland's GM, I'd rather Matisse than Maxey, even though we like Maxey, because why? He scores. Matisse doesn't score. Most people said, I'll take Maxey. Guess what? I'll take Matisse. You take Maxey. If I'm Philly, I'm asking Portland if that's the deal that they're interested in, and I don't know that that's accurate. I'm saying Ben and Maxey and the picks. I'll give you Ben, Maxey, and the 2 first-round picks. You let me keep Matisse Thybulle. James is watching the show on YouTube. He says, that's too much. Don't include Thybulle. Well, I like the fact that people are actually saying that they value Matisse Thybulle. That makes me have some good feelings. Kyle is watching the show on YouTube. He says, I just don't want to see Ben go. Maxey and Matisse with Harris and picks will get it done. That will not get it done. Maxey Matisse with Harris is not getting that done. If I'm the Portland Trailblazers, I am not making that deal. Tobias Harris does nothing for that team. Maxey's not a good defensive player. You're not trading Maxey for Lillard. Now, you might say, well, Lillard wants to be traded. He does, but I still own his contract. I got to get fair market value. And if I don't like the deal you're giving me, I'll call the Knicks. Not that I think that the Knicks can make a better deal. 609-403-0973. Mike, I think another second-tier player with Lillard makes it plausible. If they send you back another secondary guy, I don't know, who do they have on that team that would be of interest? I think, like a secondary player, like who would be a player like their roster? Like, you hear Covington's name a lot in trade talks, like that kind of stuff, but they're not going to. I don't think they would do that. Did I just hear Mike Gill say Dame Lillard's a better player than Ben Simmons? Well, never thought I'd see the day. Terry Galloway. I don't understand what that means. There's a lot of players in the league that are better than Ben. Yeah, right. I don't know where anybody would come up with that. Ben fits what the Sixers do really well, except for when he's the guy you saw in the Hawks series. Typically, efficiency-wise, Ben and Joel are the top duo in all of basketball. Unfortunately, Ben Simmons had an outer body experience in the Hawks series, which now has put us in this situation. But there's a lot of players out there that are better than Ben. Not actually, I say a lot. Look, was all NBA third team. That means there's 14 guys, 15 guys in the league. Many of those 15 are better than Ben, and some that aren't even all NBA players are better than Ben. But what Ben does for the Sixers, a lot of those guys wouldn't do. That's what I'm talking about, Terry, when I say that. Ben Simmons' defense is really one of the reasons why Ben works with this team so good. Because, quite frankly, I don't think, if you take Ben Simmons out, I don't think Seth Curry is the player that you see. I think you're going to see a lesser Seth Curry. If you take Ben Simmons out, I think you're going to see a lesser version of the players that play with him. Maybe not Joel Embiid, but I think Joel Embiid does. Ben Simmons does a lot for Joel Embiid. I think Ben Simmons does a lot for Tobias Harris. I think Ben Simmons does a ton for Seth Curry. You take him away, I don't think Seth Curry's as good. I don't think Tobias Harris is as good, and that's a big problem if Tobias Harris is a lesser player. Mike, no question that trade gets done. With the minutes Dame plays, Maxey and Simmons are not needed. As far as defense, well, you got to go find some cheap, no-name athletic guys to try and defend. Yeah, that's one way to go about it. But I just feel like the Sixers' defensive problems we're going to start complaining about if that happens. That's just me. I don't know. I could be wrong. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN on a Friday. It's brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. What makes this fun is it's very fluid. More text messages coming in, 609-403-0973. If you're watching the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can leave a message in the comments section. I will put it up on the screen, and we can go back and forth. I see Adam. I see James. I see South Philly Sedat. I see Kyle. I see SLR. I see James. I see more. If you're watching the show, greetings. If you're listening on the radio on 97.3 ESPN, thank you. If you have the free mobile app, appreciate you as well. Download the free mobile app wherever you get your apps in the Apple Store or Google Play. It's free, and you can take the show on the go. You're on the beach, riding the bike, wherever you're going, and be a part of the Sports Bash on a happy hour Friday. Pete Thompson tonight, coming up in about 20 minutes from now. Mike McGarry joins me for his twice-a-week conversations. Always good to mix it up with McGarry. And tonight at 5:40, stick around. I got my special IPA selections of the weekend. All right, our Sixers insider Paul Hudrick's going to join us at 3:20 today to kind of give us some insight on what he thinks about where the Sixers are with Ben Simmons right now, because you're going to start to hear stuff. I mean, every time I do a Google search, I was telling you yesterday, every team is trying to figure out a way to get Ben Simmons. I just saw some ridiculous 3-team trade that sends Ben Simmons to Oklahoma City, and the Sixers in return get a bunch of different guys from here, there, everywhere. A couple guys from Houston, a couple guys from Oklahoma City. I mean, I don't want some of these guys. 5 draft picks from some team. Someone's willing to give up 5 draft picks for Ben Simmons. I mean, you're telling me that people aren't trying to figure out creative ways to get there. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, 609-403-0973. Mike, it's way too much to give up for Dame Lillard, a guy who's won nothing. Everyone kills Harden for not winning, but not Lillard. He made one Western Conference final and got swept. It was C.J. McConnell who got them to the West Finals against Denver. Lillard came up short. Hey, look, I said that. Dame has been knocked out of the first round 5 out of 8 times. I would be concerned. He's a great player, but why haven't his teams been able to be very successful in the playoffs? Now, I get the West has a lot more star power, but isn't he one of the biggest stars of them all? Are we just so quick to hate Ben that we're just willing to take a guy based on name recognition? But why hasn't Dame Lillard been able to get that team any further? Dame's a small guy. How many small guys, 6'2", are taking their teams to the NBA Finals and winning the whole thing? Why haven't the Portland Trailblazers? Look, I don't think the Portland teams have been very good. You can make an argument to say the fact that they got to a Western Conference Finals was pretty impressive. Hey, guess what? They have typically the best player on the court all the time. Dame's great, almost 29 points a game. Him and Joel Embiid would be a tremendous duo. But I do agree with that text that wonders, hey, why hasn't he been able to win in the first round? And if you lose Dame Lillard, yes, Dame and Joel would be a beast mode, those two together. But now you're losing a lot of the pieces around. What does the rest of that team look like? Just having 2 great players sometimes isn't enough if you don't have the depth around them. 609-403-0973. Mike, who was the Thibault before he became Thibault, if you get what I'm saying? They didn't really have, I guess Robert Covington was kind of the Thibault, like the defensive-minded 3.3 and D guy. Thibault's a tremendous defensive player. Tremendous defensive player. The guy got, third team or second or third team, all NBA defense, and he barely plays. That's how good of a defensive player he is. Mike, the Thunder Sixers trade news is more likely what the Sixers are going to get back for Simmons. I don't think so. I don't think the Sixers will take a deal where draft picks are the key element of the deal. So that's why I completely disagree with that. No surprise. They're not going to take a deal where they're getting 5 draft choices. You're not going to get a deal where you're not going to take a deal where the draft choices are the key element of the trade. They need players that are going to help them win now. And the deal that I saw that was thrown out there, the Sixers were getting back Kemba Walker and 5 draft choices and Eric Gordon from the Rockets. I mean, that's just not getting it done. 5 draft choices, to me, that's like the fluff that you throw in to say, we don't have enough to make a trade, so we'll throw as many draft picks. Why? And then there you go, to show you the value. Some team is willing to give 5 picks to get Ben Simmons. 609-403-0973. Adam checks in on Facebook. He says, without Simmons, isn't Thibault pretty important defensively? Yes, agree. He goes on to say, and that's probably what caliber of player you want as your top defender. Lillard can carry this team on his own, but they need a defender. Why are we so sure Dame Lillard can carry this team? Right? What team has he carried? And I'm not trying to minimize Dame Lillard. He's an amazing talent. But let's take a step back of our hate for Ben Simmons, or your hate for Ben Simmons. What Portland team have you been like, man, he really led that team? They've got knocked out of the first round 5 times in 8 years. They've been quite disappointing, to be honest with you. Now, you can make an argument that Joel Embiid is a better running mate than C.J. McCollum is. But that text message is right. The year they went to the Western Conference Finals, C.J. McCollum was awesome. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Adam checks back in. He says, asking why he's lost, assuming he's the only guy on his team. Has he had Joel Embiid? No, that's what I said. Yeah, he hasn't had a Joel Embiid type of player. I mean, Nurkic isn't a bum, but he's not Joel Embiid by any stretch of the imagination. That Portland team has had, they've had some good teams out there in Portland. The West is deeper. There's no question about that. There's no question that the West is deeper. But Dame Lillard, C.J. McCollum, Nurkic, that is a decent trio of guys. They've had some other guys over the years. I don't say they're NBA championship level teams, but at the same time, they should be able to get out of the first round a couple times in some of these. Mike, don't play down Dame's game. You know he's a good player. His team stinks and the West is tough. Dame and Joel would be a nice fit. I don't disagree that they would be a nice fit. I'm not downplaying Dame's game. He averages almost 30 points a game. And yes, I don't know that he's a good player. He's an elite player. But his team doesn't stink. That's the thing. That's where you're wrong. The Trailblazers teams have been pretty good, right? They have been pretty good. They have been disappointing. They have been disappointing. They went to the Western Conference Finals. It wasn't that long ago. It was 2 years ago. They went to the Western Conference Finals. They were the number 2 seed out west. They've been the 1 seed. They've been the 2 seed multiple times. Excuse me, they were the 3 seed multiple times. They've been the 3 seed in 17. They were the 3 seed in 18. So this is a team, when they've had Dame Lillard, they have been a top 4 seed in the West a couple times. They went to the conference finals as the 3 seed. They've had good teams. The question is, they've had good teams, but why are they not getting out of the first round? They've had some good teams. That team they had that went to the finals, they actually had Seth Curry on that team, if you remember. Al-Farouq Amine was a very good defensive player. Mo Harkless, another good defensive player. Cantor at that time, a very good offensive rebounder. Lillard, McCollum, Nurkic. I think Nurkic was hurt that year too. Wasn't Nurkic hurt the year that they went to the finals and they figured out a way to get there? So they've had some pretty good teams. The team they got knocked out in the first round last year, in the bubble, all right, you're playing the Lakers and you're in the bubble. I'll give you some slack on that. But this year, they lost to the Nuggets, who were down a guy, Jamal Murray. And I think Portland was up in that series and ended up losing. They got swept in the first round by the Pelicans one year. Remember that? They got swept by New Orleans. And they had a good team that year. I mean, you get swept by the Pelicans in the first round of the playoffs, and you've got Dame Lillard. That's all I wonder. They got swept in the playoffs the year before that. In the playoffs. So I'm not downplaying Dame's game. He's an elite player. He's not a good player, dude. He's an elite player. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I'm Mike Hill. Hanging out on a happy hour Friday. Suzie Hunter's back. She was at the All-Star game. We'll talk to her about her experience at the All-Star game from her Major League Baseball ballpark tour trip. She is traveling all across the country to every single Major League Baseball stadium for charity. She'll give you details on that and what stadiums she'll be hitting up next. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN for the free mobile app. Don't forget, take the show on the go and download our free mobile app wherever you get your apps in the Apple Store or Google Play. I'll be back with Mike McGarry live coming up next. All right, 2:41 on a happy hour Friday. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, their sports writer, is here as I believe he is live at Citizens Bank Park for today's double disco, a little double dip between the Phillies and the Marlins to start off the second half of the season. will give us a little insight on that. I think the Phillies just changed their lineup, actually. Nick Maton was originally in the lineup, and it looks like Ronald Torreyes will now play third base. That's because Alec Boehm is out, so this is the cause and effect of, I guess, Boehm is on the COVID list, Mike, and I guess he is not ready to go, so it's going to be Torreyes at third. Did you see this change to the lineup?
Yeah, I did. What happened was Nick Maton was originally supposed to play third base. I think he injured a finger or something and tried to take batting practice and couldn't make a go of it. So they reinserted or put Torreyes in to replace him in the first game of this doubleheader. As you said, Alec Boehm is still on the COVID list, but according to Joe Girardi, he is feeling fine. Bailey Falter, the reliever, is off the COVID list. Connor Brogdon, the reliever, is expected to come off the COVID list tomorrow. And Aaron Nola is still on the COVID list. However, he was playing catch in the outfield. He was around pregame, and he is expected to start Tuesday night in Yankee Stadium against the Yankees.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That is the Phillies COVID update.
I was going to say Nola not pitching in the first 4 games. We were all kind of waiting to see what Girardi would say, but him being announced as the starter on Tuesday, I guess, is a good sign that he is healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, he's healthy. Not more than an hour ago, I stood about a foot away from Aaron Nola, myself and a bunch of other reporters, and we talked to him before the game today. So he's no ill effects. He was just a close contact to Boehm. He said he wasn't even around Boehm that much. He wasn't worried. He said it was obviously frustrating not being able to pitch last Sunday in Boston, and then he kept in shape by throwing against the fence at a field close to his home. But he said he's ready to go, and he will pitch Tuesday night in New York against the Yankees.
All right. What are your thoughts on Wheeler not pitching until Sunday in this series?
Well, again, Girardi was asked pregame how he set up the rotation, and he said he was trying to optimize rest for guys. So obviously Nola being on the COVID list had something to do with that, and Wheeler pitching in the All-Star game had something to also do with it. I guess when Girardi thought about the rotation, even though Wheeler only pitched one batter in the All-Star game, Girardi wanted to give him some extra rest. Girardi did say that he was not unhappy, that he was happy that Wheeler got to pitch in the All-Star game because he earned the right to be there. He, however, was not unhappy that Wheeler, who has thrown 114 innings, is on pace for a career-high 228 innings, only pitched to one batter in the All-Star game. So maximizing Wheeler, giving him enough time to rest, was the theory on pitching him on Sunday.
Okay, yeah, he threw 3 pitches in that game the other night. And you're wondering, though, Mike, this is a doubleheader today. It's only a 7-inning game. You could potentially have gotten a 7-inning type of game from Wheeler and not have to use your bullpen. Like, was that under consideration or was that not brought up?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's the travel too, right? I mean, he's out to Denver on Sunday. He pitches Tuesday night. He either leaves late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, comes back to the East Coast here. So I think the travel was something that they were looking at too. I do think they have an issue going forward. They've got Matt Moore starting game 1 of the doubleheader today. They've got Vince Velasquez scheduled to pitch on Saturday. Neither of those 2 guys has shown the ability to consistently go deep in games. So ideally, at some point, I think you would want to break those guys up, not pitch them on back-to-back days so you can save your bullpen. However, what happened to Nola and Wheeler in the All-Star game did not afford them the opportunity to do that at this moment.
All right, Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. His must-win column appears Fridays in the Press of Atlantic City. Make sure you check that out. And I want to flip gears now over to, obviously, Simmons. His name is coming up everywhere. There is a wonky little, I don't know, flimsy report out there that suggests Dame Lillard, he is going to speak. We don't know if he's going to list teams or anything to that matter, but it appears that Dame Lillard's going to want to be traded here. If you're the 76ers, are you making that call and giving anything up to get him, or is there within reason to get Dame Lillard?
I am 100% in favor of whatever it takes to get Dame Lillard here. I'm throwing Simmons in. I'm throwing Maxey in. I'm throwing Football in. I'm throwing in as many first-round draft picks and as many pick swaps as you want. I think Lillard is the perfect fit here What he can do, his ability to score on the perimeter and create for others, is exactly what the Sixers need to complement Joel Embiid. And I believe Lillard has 3 or 4 years on his contract left. You bring him here, and you basically, with a 27, 28-year-old Joel Embiid, you're basically setting up, a 3-year window for you to go take a serious run at an NBA title. So if I'm the Sixers, I'm doing whatever it takes to get Dame Lillard here. And I'm not making the same mistake I've made, or maybe I've made in the past, where I didn't want to give up a Danny Green to get a Kyle Lowry, and I didn't want to part with Maxey or Thibault to get a James Harden. I'm getting a superstar, and to me, Lillard is the guy who fits them perfectly. So I'm doing whatever it takes.
By the way, Lillard, $43.7 million next year, $47 million the following year, and $50 million in his final year of the deal. So he would be the highest paid player on the Sixers team. Obviously, $50 million he is making in one season coming up in 22 and 23. Let me ask you this question about Lillard. I think he's fantastic. I agree with what you're saying. Him and Embiid would be awesome. Is there any concern that we're going gaga about a guy who has not been able to essentially get out of the first round of the playoffs, eliminated 5 times in 8 years? Do we look at him and say, what a great player, but why do his teams come up short?
Well, I think on the flip side of that, he has made some deep runs on occasion. I think like 2 years ago,
they went to the finals.
Right, against the Nuggets. So he has shown the ability. I think you look at the Portland roster, and you could say on the flip side, maybe Lillard got them to a spot where they shouldn't have gotten. Maybe Lillard got them into the playoffs when they shouldn't have been into the playoffs. I think to that answer, you have Lillard, a guy who has been to the finals once, been eliminated in the first round, as you said, 5 times, but you've got Embiid, a guy who hasn't gotten out of the second round. Maybe you put them together. Hey, that's what they need together. We talk about Embiid, being complimented by Lillard because he's never had a player like Lillard. Well, has Lillard ever had a player like Embiid to get him going? So I think they're perfect for each other. They can both help each other, and I think they're exactly what they need for the Sixers to make a run. And plus, I think you get Lillard, you make Joel Embiid happy. This is the elephant in the room, right? In today's NBA world, NBA stars, Lillard's doing it now. He's got 4 years left on his contract, yet it looks like he's going to force his way out of Portland. Mm-hmm. Who's to say Embiid doesn't decide in a couple of years, boy, this Sixers situation isn't working out. I want out. You go to Joel Embiid this offseason and say, we're serious about winning a title. The player we brought in to help you win a title is Dame Lillard. I think everybody's happy.
Fair. A lot of what you said I agree with. Obviously, there's some things here. You're playing Dame Lillard, 6'2", in the backcourt with Seth Curry. Both not very good defensive players. You would probably have to give up Ben Simmons and maybe Matisse Thybulle. Defensively, no worries there?
I don't have any worries there because to me, you get the two guys, right? And the NBA has shown this, right? You get your 2 stars. You get your Embiid and you get your Lillard, and then you get guys to fit around them. Who's to say you're not going to get a 3-and-D guy who wants to come here because he sees this as an opportunity to win a title? Who says, you can get a bigger guard, a defensive guard to come here and maybe shift Curry back to the bench? All other questions can kind of be worked out. The NBA has shown that. If you get superstars, role players will come to play with those guys, but you need the superstars first. So all those other side issues like you bring up there, to me, they can be worked out and they will be worked out. But what you don't have, what you do need first is the superstars. Get the superstars and everything else will fall in the line.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. I don't know that you read or heard this comment the other day, but Israel Gutierrez was on the Greg Cody podcast recently and said, quote, people don't like Ben Simmons in this league. He actually prefaced it by saying, I'm not breaking news here, but people don't like Ben Simmons in the league. His teammates don't like Ben. There's just something about him. He's an unlikable dude. And in the locker room, he's unlikable. You've been around the team a lot. Do you get that vibe that Ben Simmons is an unlikable guy?
Yeah, I don't know about that from a perspective of, we are around the team a lot, but our access is limited, especially with COVID the past year and a half. It's been very limited. I see where Ben Simmons, to me personally, don't know him at all, but he seems to have a little bit of he's a cool customer, right? He's got a cool personality. He's not, to me, kind of outgoing and warm. It doesn't project that sort of image, but who knows what he's like behind closed doors. Let me tell you this. I think his teammates would like him a lot more if he didn't go 25 for 73 from the foul line and pass up open ducks in the fourth quarter. I think they would like him a lot more if he didn't do those things. And his style of play, sharing the ball and stuff like that is unselfish. So I think if he was on the right team, he would be a fun guy to play with. As I've said several times, I just don't think this is the right team for him. I don't think him and Embiid are a good mix. And maybe there's a situation where, there's an Embiid camp and a Simmons camp. Who knows? For whatever reason, it hasn't worked in Philadelphia. That doesn't mean it can't work somewhere else for Ben Simmons.
All right. I want to ask you, Mike, you are obviously covering the Phillies a lot. There are, some people out there. Adam Schefter said the other day that Philadelphia is the most equipped team to go get a guy like Deshaun Watson. What has the reaction been to Odubel Herrera? Like, has it been was it a day? Was it an at-bat? Has it been a month? I can't get a vibe of how the fans have reacted to him because there was a lot of people who did not want to see him. But have they got a lot of backlash from playing Herrera essentially every day?
They haven't gotten any backlash, really, from what I've seen from playing Herrera every day. I think his first at-bat, there was a smattering of boos when he came up. Since then, it's kind of been business as normal, basically, for Odubel Herrera. But let's give Odubel Herrera credit for how he handled the situation, right? He came out, he apologized to his teammates. He held that press conference with the media where he apologized to the media. When they called him up, he talked to the media again. He's expressed nothing but remorse for his actions. He seems to have gained the trust and faith of his teammates who have given him a second chance. And so far, he's kind of, to the best of our knowledge, he's done what he's had to do and stayed on the right path. So when he first got played, there was a smattering of boos when he came up. Since then, it's been business as usual. But I think so far, more importantly, Odubel Herrera has done what he's had to do to sort of rebuild his career and I guess regain the trust of his teammates and everybody else around.
If if Deshaun Watson is available, if you're the Eagles, like Dame Lillard, do you have to do everything to get him? And if they got Deshaun Watson, what is the outlook for this season?
Well, to me, under the present circumstances, I don't think there's any way any professional football team can go acquire Deshaun Watson and have a good conscience. I don't think there's any way morally you can do that. His situation, whatever it is, however it's going to play out, that situation has to be resolved before you go trade for him. If I'm the Eagles, under no circumstances whatsoever do I try to trade for Deshaun Watson right now. I just can't do it.
Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. The Phillies double disco today at Citizens Bank Park. He'll have more on that in the Press of Atlantic City. Follow him at AC Press McGarry. And enjoy your weekend, Michael.
All right, Mike. See you down the road.
That's Mike McGarry. He'll be back on Monday's show here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Phillies lineup is out. Just a quick tinker, as you heard. Mike told us at the top of that conversation, Torreyes is in, Nick Maton is out, Bohm is now playing. Some updates on Nola as well. But when we come back, Suzie Hunter's here. She has been backpacking all across the country on a Major League Baseball ballpark tour for charity. She was at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game on Tuesday night. She'll give you some details on how that all went down and what stadiums she's visiting. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash. See her live on the live video. All right, welcome back. Happy Hour Friday. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. We've had a great time so far today. We got PT coming up at 6 tonight. Excuse me, 5. I'm off at 6, so I will not talk to PT at 6. I am also giving, Suzie will like this, at 5:40 tonight, I am giving my IPA selections of the weekend, so everybody can go out there and have a good time with a nice cold one on this, what is going to be a beautiful day down the shore. But Suzie is backpacking across the country. Her ballpark tour continues, and you, Suzie Hunter, at the Suzie Hunter, got a chance to go see Coors Field and the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. What a amazing moment that must have been.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love Coors Field. I've been there a lot because I used to cover their AA team, the Rockies AA team in Hartford. But being there for the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby was a whole other level. It was freaking awesome.
All right. Now tell us a little bit about it. What were some of the moments, some of the cool parts about, because I've never been to a signature or jewel event is what they call them, stuff like that. So what are some of the things that were unique about going to a ballpark for a game as opposed to going to the ballpark for what you got to go to, the Derby and the All-Star festivities?
The merch is different. And also just like people from all over. I mean, like Coors Field in general, a lot of people are transplants in Denver. So a lot of people will wear different jerseys, but it was just all different jerseys. So I got to talk to people from all over the place, and everyone was so stoked to be there too, because we didn't get to do this last year.
That's true. There was no All-Star game last year. Now, the interesting part about this was the All-Star game was originally supposed to be in Atlanta. It got moved to Coors Field, but by all accounts, they knocked it out of the park. They did an amazing job with this. And the Derby on Monday night was such a cool, unique event. Like Shohei Ohtani really kind of, bringing that out in the beginning. But Pete Alonso winning for back-to-back years. It had to be a pretty unique situation watching the Home Run Derby on Monday night.
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I did not catch anything, unfortunately. I was like so convinced I was going to. But that was unreal. And also just a big Trey Mancini fan in general. So like seeing him do really well in that too made me so happy.
I like the fact that you mentioned you didn't catch any ball. Did you make it on the Jumbotron?
No, I did not. I made it on in Miami, and I made it on TV in Philly, and I don't know. I keep trying to get on. I throw myself in front of every camera. We went to the celebrity softball game, and
how was that?
I threw myself in front of every camera, but like, I don't actually know if I made it on TV. I feel like someone would have texted me if I did, but I didn't get a chance to watch it after the Home Run Derby because I was doing other things after the Home Run Derby. But yeah, I don't think I made it. I feel like I probably would have heard.
All right, so the Derby on Monday night, and then the All-Star game is on Tuesday night. Now, JT Realmuto hits a home run, so you had a little Philly love there. The first home run a Philly hit since 1981 in the All-Star game. That's one. But tell us a little bit about the uniqueness of being at the All-Star game, because I'm sure a lot of people in the listening audience have never been, and I've always wondered, like, is that something I really want to do? Is that something I really want to go to?
You know what? It was so cool. I didn't know, like, what I would think of it. I've never been to an All-Star game before this either, but it was just insane to see, like, so much top talent that, I always like look out for. I love seeing what Vlad Jr. is up to, and then just getting to see him play with JT Realmuto, with Shohei Ohtani, like just everyone all in one game. I didn't realize I would love it so much. It was really cool.
So what are some of the you've been going to ballparks all over the country. We'll tell people about that here in just a minute. But what are some of the signature aspects of Coors Field? Because that's one that's on my list that I want to check out.
It's a beautiful park. The views are insane. The rooftop is really popular, but it's full of a lot of people who aren't even there to watch the game. So that's like a whole different environment in itself. So there's something for everyone there. But my favorite thing about Coors Field, it's my favorite ballpark food. They have the best nachos. Specifically the nachos in section 110, but they're they're the best nachos that you can get in baseball, at least that I've had so far, and I've had a lot, but they do a green chili queso that is just like better than any queso you're getting at another ballpark.
Right. So section 110 at Coors Field, you believe has the best. And by the way, for you listening out there, if you go to Suzie on Twitter, she's at the Suzie Hunter. It says ballpark food expert at nacho_scout. So you are a connoisseur of nachos, and you're saying that section 110 at Coors Field has better nachos than any other ballpark.
I stand by it. I will die on this hill.
Is there a close second on the East Coast that maybe we can find this summer?
You know what? I don't know if they're doing them this season, but the Phillies do helmet nachos with Bull's barbecue pulled pork on them.
Oh.
But again, like not every stadium has every concessions back. So last time I was there, I couldn't find them, but maybe they're back already now that Citizens Bank Park is back at full capacity. So don't quote me on it, but they've had them in the past, and those are really good too.
Now, I know at the Coors Field at the All-Star game, you have, as you mentioned, you have a smorgasbord of fans out there, and apparently they let A-Rod have it the other night.
Oh my gosh, this was hilarious. So it's as we're all leaving, ESPN has their broadcast set up, and people are just chanting, J-Lo, J-Lo. And I was all about it because I'm Team J-Lo always. But then Big Poppy is like egging everyone on. I'm like, I am loving this dynamic. Let us all roast A-Rod. It was one of my favorite moments, I think, of the entire week.
Awesome stuff. So obviously tell the people, Suzie, thesuziehunter.com, what you're doing this summer and why you're doing this and how our listeners can get involved.
Yes. Okay. So I'm visiting all 30 ballparks. I'm road tripping it. I'm doing it in one season, and I'm doing it as a fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. The goal is 30K. I still have a long way to go. So to donate, you can go to thesuziehunter.com/MLB-road-trip. There's a link to the GoFundMe there. If that was like too much of a mouthful to remember, you can just find me on social media. The link is right at the top of all of my different platforms, but I'm at the Suzie Hunter.
So no baseball this week. I'm imagining you have a little bit of a downtime after the All-Star game on Tuesday. I'm imagining you used Wednesday, Thursday, and now today to try to jumpstart the second half of this trip.
Yeah, so I'm still in Denver right now. I did want to go to a proper Rockies game, but they're playing tonight, so I'll be back at Coors Field again.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so much baseball this week, but I did have a couple of days off from driving and from baseball, so that was kind of weird. I've just been like a regular person. But I'm going to be in Denver for another couple of days, and then after that, I'm heading to the Midwest and kind of kicking off the second half of this trip.
So then after that, I mean, how many games are you like fitting in a week now?
It depends on like where I'm driving to. Yeah, it all depends. But like I go to a few games a week.
Yeah. So like typically, you know, like you might do one early in the week, drive, and then catch one a little bit. So like 2 to 3 games, I guess, is about where you're at.
At least 2. At least 2 games a week. But yeah, usually it's more like 3 or 4 games a week. But it all depends on like
how
far I'm driving. And also, you know, once you're out like west, cities are much farther away from each other. So that kind of changes it all too.
Now, are you catching when you get to Chicago, Cubs day, White Sox at night?
No, because they're never in town at the same time. I have to go to Chicago twice.
Really?
See,
when I went to Chicago, I got them both in the same week when I was there. This was years ago, though.
It's tough. It's really tough. So consider yourself lucky. I think there's one weekend in September where the Cubs and the White Sox are in town at the same time, but that doesn't fit into my road trip schedule, so I couldn't make that happen. So I'm visiting Chicago twice. That's what did you look into doing Cubs day game, Brewers game at night? They're only about an hour apart. That's a lot. That's a lot of driving. I would rather not rush from one ballpark to the other. Also, let's say I'm at, a Cubs day game and it goes like 26 innings or something, and then I miss the drive. Like too risky.
What I thought you were going to say is, imagine I'm at the Cubs day game and I went to the Cubby Bear before, and then the beer snake started happening. I don't want to drive to the Brewers game at night.
Exactly. I do want to get the full ballpark experience, and that usually includes a few beers. Let me have them.
Yeah. So who has the best beer selection?
The best beer selection? Oh, that's a good question.
I have seen you tweet different beers in your Twitter from where the ballparks are. It seems that you've made a conscious effort to show people, hey, they've got this or whatever. So where have you been most impressed? Because I hear that San Diego has the best beer selection.
Every time I go to a ballpark, I do try to get some local brew that I haven't tried before. But I can't say that any one park has stuck out as having a wild beer selection. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. And also now I'm a little more excited to go to San Diego.
Yes. Now, because, for instance, when I go to Phillies spring training in Clearwater, they actually have the beers of the world. The bar, which is called like World of Beers or Beers of the World or something like that. They have a really good selection in Clearwater. The Phillies selection in Philly is not as good as it is in Clearwater. So those are the type of things that I'm looking for. But the Nacho Insight is really solid at Coors Field. Suzie Hunter is traveling to every Major League Baseball park and raising money for an amazing organization, the Boys and Girls Club of America. You can go to thesuziehunter.com and donate. And again, it's such a fun thing. You're in Denver right now. You're going to go to the game tonight. Who are they playing?
Oh, it's Dodgers too. So it's going to be a great series. I'm really excited. I'm a low-key Rockies fan, so we'll see how it goes for me emotionally. But I'm very excited. It should be a really good game.
On your travels now, are people noticing you at ballpark? Are you seeing that people are like, hey, you're the girl that's traveling to all the baseball stadiums?
Yeah, so it actually happens at almost every ballpark at least once where someone comes up to me. They're like, are you Suzie? But actually, so when we went to the Fan Fest stuff before the All-Star game, and this guy looks at me, he's like, are you like a baseball Instagram person? I thought he was just like making fun of me, and I'm like, I guess. He's like, wait, are you Suzie, like the one who's doing the road trip? I'm like, yes. Oh, I thought you were just like messing with me. I thought you were just like making fun of me.
There you go.
So yeah, no, people, I get recognized every once in a while, so that's really cool.
Well, that's cool that it's catching on. People are starting to hear more and more about what you're doing, and you're doing it for a good cause, so that's great as well. So enjoy Coors Field for the second. Wait, so this will be the third time this week you're at Coors Field?
Fourth time.
Oh, did they do the celebrity softball game there?
Yeah, so the celebrity softball game was there, and then I had All-Star game, home run derby, and then, this will be my fourth time there this week, and the woman who makes the nachos in Section 110 will be very happy to see me.
Are you sitting in 110 again?
No, I walk over there to get the nachos.
Not that anybody listening will be at the game tonight. I don't think anyway.
I severely doubt it. Yeah,
I can check our geo to see if anybody's listening online from Denver right now, but I don't see anybody in listening line yet. By the way, did you get a chance to go to the draft or check out any of because there is a local kid that got drafted here in the first round?
Yeah, no, I didn't have tickets for it, but I know some people that I know went to it, and apparently it was really cool. So, different. It's so cool what Denver was able to get together in just a
short amount of time. Yeah, short amount of time. Again, check out thesuziehunter.com. If you're listening, you've been enjoying her trip. And then next week, we will find out on Friday, although I won't be here on Friday. So we'll have to try to I'm actually coaching. I coach a baseball team, and we won the states. We are going to regionals. So I will not be here because our team opens play in the regionals on Friday.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yep, I will be in Altoona, PA, home of the Altoona Curve. There you go.
All right. Beautiful time of year.
Yes, so we will touch base with where you have been. That'll be fun because you will have chalked up a lot of ballparks when I get back the next time we get a chance to catch up. But follow her on Twitter and Instagram and the website, The Suzie Hunter, and donate. Do that for me. Everybody out there, donate for Suzie's trip because everybody listening knows that you would like to be Suzie right now, getting ready to go travel the Midwest and West for all these ballparks for the rest of the summer. So safe driving. Enjoy the game tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Mike.
All right. Suzie Hunter is back, and we'll talk to her again soon. The Boys and Girls Club of America. Donate at thesuziehunter.com. All right. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. We appreciate her making time for us each Friday. This has been so much fun, hearing about all the ballparks, the food. Take it all in. It's a great feeling that baseball is back and stadiums are filled. When we come back, Paul Hudrick, our Sixers insider, will join us, and we'll talk to him about Ben Simmons, trade it. Dame Lillard, do you have to make the deal? He joins me on the other side right here on the Sports Batch. All right, thanks to Suzie for jumping back on board. Her ballpark tour continues. You can donate for her cause over at thesuziehunter.com/MLB-road-trip to donate for the Boys and Girls Club. She's having a blast this summer. That is something that I would love to do. Go to every MLB ballpark and do it in one summer. Just drive around the country. Let's go and check in on the Sixers. And Well, Ben Simmons, of course. The news continues to change almost daily now, Paul. Paul Hudrick is with us from 97.3 ESPN.com. And, of course, we know from earlier the reports that the Sixers are engaging in talks, and there was reports that the interest has been robust. But apparently Dame Lillard is going to make an announcement that he would like to be traded from Portland. So how crazy do you think it's about to get, Paul?
It's only going to get crazier. I know that. It's not going to get any less crazy. Because I know Dame Lillard's about to talk, and no matter what he says, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it kind of doesn't matter. I guess if he comes out and demands a trade, that's certainly a statement, and that certainly affects things in one way. But if he comes out and says no and denies that report that came out and says, no, I'm not demanding a trade, that doesn't mean he's not, first of all, maybe secretly demanding it behind the scenes, or two, he just doesn't want to ruin Portland's leverage. So he doesn't want to be a jerk about it. He does have mutual respect for that city and the fan base and organization. So he doesn't want to say anything that's maybe going to hurt them. I don't imagine that he's going to come out and demand a trade today, but I imagine he's going to say enough. And even the Chris Haynes interview that just came out not that long ago, he hinted that things aren't great there, and that there needs to be some serious changes. So I don't suspect it gets any less crazy over these coming weeks. I imagine Ben Simmons' name is going to be thrown out a lot, and Dame Lillard's name's also going to be out there an awful lot.
Yeah, and let me ask you, I like Dame Lillard a lot. I think he would be amazing with Joel Embiid. But do you give up anything possible to get that player, or is there a threshold for you?
For me, no, absolutely not. You get Dame Lillard in here with Joel Embiid, you figure the rest out. You make it work one way or another. I would say that if you're Daryl Morey, of course you have a walking away point of some kind. I don't know what that is. Whether that's I'm only willing to give out X amount of first round picks, or I'm only willing to give you one of Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle and not both. Like there's every good executive, you do have to have a walking away point. What that is for Daryl Morey, I'm not sure. It would hurt. I mean, I personally would still do it, but it would hurt to give up both Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle, especially Thybulle, because you're going to need, if you're going to move on from Ben Simmons and you're going to bring Dame Lillard in here, you're kind of going to need Matisse Thybulle because you need defense. And that, if you're going into next season and you're starting backcourt as Dame Lillard and Seth Curry, good luck defensively, because that's not great. So that's it. I would say, yeah, one, you need to have a walking away point, but two, if you're going to give up those players, you need to have some type of contingency plan to mitigate what you're going to lose on the defensive end of the floor. So yeah, a lot of moving parts, but to me, like I said, get Dame Lillard in here and figure the rest out, because that's all that really matters.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have the same sentiment, is that, hey, you get him here and you figure out the rest. But I agree with the one thing you said is, if I have to pick, like, hey, I'll give you Maxey, I'm not giving you Thybulle, because defensively with Dame Lillard 6'2" and Seth Curry, you're going to have some issues in that backcourt. No,
100%. And then on top of that, you're giving up a player in Ben Simmons who, say whatever you want about him, he was second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. You could argue he could have won it. You see what he did against Trae Young in the playoffs, that no other team was really able to do, no other player was able to do to that extent. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to lose a lot defensively if you give up Ben Simmons and you take on Damian Lillard, who is as talented as they come offensively. You could, again, argue that he is maybe the best scoring guard in the entire NBA right now. But with that, you're going to take a hit on defense. So you need to make sure that you're going to have the supplemental pieces. Now, with that said, Mike, let's say you give up Matisse Thybulle and Tyrese Maxey. If you have to give up both, there are going to be veteran players lining up to sign minimum contracts to come here, because you already have those two special players in Joel Embiid and Damian Lillard. If you have those guys, you're going to get guys who want to come here that can fill those roles, that can be 3-and-D guys, that can play defense. Whether that's like, what a guy like I don't know, Trevor Ariza, Avery Bradley, like, yeah, those names aren't sexy, but they can fill in those gaps because you don't need them to be stars. You have stars. So I think you can help mitigate that if you did have to give up both of those young players.
Yeah, you wonder how much of what Brooklyn did. I know they didn't get out, and they lost their two big guys. I mean, they lost Harden, essentially, and Kyrie. If you lose players of that magnitude, it doesn't matter who your role players are. You're probably not making it very far. But how much did seeing that, hey, we invested in these three stars, and the rest of the guys we didn't really care too much about, how much will that change the perception of, okay, it doesn't matter. If we have Joel Embiid, Dame Lillard, and Tobias Harris, we're okay with some veteran guys just filling roles.
Yeah, and listen, the Brooklyn Nets came within, Kevin Durant's big toe of being in the Eastern Conference Finals with all those injuries you talked about. And yeah, that's what it boils down to, Mike. Like if Dame Lillard or Joel Embiid, if the Sixers were able to get Dame Lillard, if one of them gets hurt, it doesn't matter what the rest of the team looks like because you're not winning anything. And that goes for any team in the NBA. The Milwaukee Bucks, if they had to go a long I understand they won a game without Giannis, but they had to go a long stretch. Like if they didn't, you already see what he's doing in this series against the Suns. If they had to play the NBA Finals without Giannis, they would not be winning any games. They would have gotten swept. And they would be in a lot of trouble if they didn't have Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday. Yeah, that's just the way the NBA is now. It is a star-focused league. You need to have star players. So yeah, I get kind of the sentiment, like, look what happened to Brooklyn because their star guys got hurt. But I think any team, again, the Phoenix Suns, if you took Chris Paul or Devin Booker out of the lineup for an extended period, they would lose games too. It's just the reality of the league that I cover and the league that we all watch. It's star driven. Yep. So to me, that's why I would do it, because I want to optimize the star power.
I want to ask you, I don't know if you heard Israel Gutierrez on the Greg Cody podcast recently. I don't know if you heard any of the comments that he had to say, but, not the most, well, I'll let you decide for yourself. He said, quote, "I don't think I'm breaking any news here, but people don't like Ben Simmons in the league. His teammates don't like Ben. There's just something about him. He's an unlikable dude. And in that locker room, he's unlikable." Is that something that you feel as well? You've been around this team for years. Do you get the feeling that the people in that locker room don't like Ben Simmons?
I wouldn't say that they don't like him. I think that might be an exaggeration. I can understand why some people don't like him. I get it. I get how he could rub some people the wrong way. He's kind of sarcastic. He's kind of got a sense of humor like that. He likes to, bust stones with reporters, and like, especially, some of the older guys, he kind of goes after them a little bit and they don't really care for that. So I get it. And I can understand why maybe some people don't like Ben Simmons as a dude, basically, as a person. But I would say not that I don't think anyone on the team necessarily feels like, oh, I don't like Ben Simmons. I think that he doesn't really have necessarily any, like, the way that Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler really bonded. I don't think Ben Simmons has that with anybody on this team in particular. I know he actually got very close with James Ennis when he was still here. They became very close friends. I would say, if anything, Mike, I think some guys, whether they're here now or whether they're not here, I think some guys didn't like the way that the team handled Ben Simmons, for a lack of a better term. They don't like the way that maybe he was sometimes handled with kid gloves, because that's the reality, is that before Doc Rivers got here, I think there was some of that. So I think I'm sure that rubbed some players the wrong way. But to say to me that he's just this unlikable guy that nobody likes, I mean, I can't go there, because I think he's done a lot for the you talk to the young guys, and it's unsolicited, whether it's Tyrese Maxey or whether it's Matisse Thybulle. They talk about how much they like Ben and how much Ben has helped them and how much they've learned from Ben. So I think that sentiment is a little extreme, the unlikable thing, from at least from a teammate standpoint. But I will say that I don't know that he's like best friends with anybody in the team, or like he's like real close to anybody. So I mean,
that's probably by choice.
Right, sure. He keeps his circle very tight. That's a part. Kawhi Leonard's the same way. Kawhi Leonard keeps his circle really tight. And a lot of people would probably tell you that Kawhi Leonard's not a very likable guy. But to me, I don't think that's that big of a deal at all. I think A team that would be trading for him, they're not trading for him to be anyone's best friend. They're trading for him. They're trying to win basketball games. And I think Ben Simmons can help a team do that.
Well, and that was my follow-up. So then if you're another team and you were to hear, hey, this guy's unlikable, does that prevent you from wanting to make a deal?
Well, I think in any trade that's going to be like this seismic and you're bringing in a person out, like whatever, quote unquote, all-star player, you're going to get the opinions of your star players that are already on the team and your veterans that are already on the team. So I look at one team that, that we've heard a lot of rumors about is Minnesota. He actually has a good relationship with Karl Anthony Towns, despite the headlock and the peacemaker situation with Joel Embiid. Him and Karl Anthony Towns are actually friends off the court. They get along. I believe it's the same with D'Angelo Russell, who, he might have to be involved in a Ben Simmons trade, but it's not like Ben Simmons doesn't have guys around the league that he's close with. Obviously, the video game stuff, like Ben's very big into video games, and there's a lot of guys in the league that are big in video games, and he's made friends in that regard. So I think, I don't think it's going to hurt a team, especially if you're selling to, again, if it's Minnesota and you're Gerson Rosas and you're trying to sell, hey, Karl, I think this guy can help us. This guy can put us over the top. This guy can make us a playoff team. I can't imagine a player objecting to that. So no, I really don't think it hurts the Sixers from a leverage standpoint. And I don't think it hurts Ben Simmons that a team like whatever wouldn't want him. Because I think, again, comes down to the fact that he's going to help a team win basketball games. That's all that matters.
Yeah. In like a lot of the, like, it's funny because a lot of people wondering what kind of interest will be in Ben. And it looks like, as the report says, it's robust. But, a lot of the teams I look at are like Midwestern teams, smaller market teams that Mark Stein reported, Indiana, Minnesota. And to me, those are teams, as you kind of said the other day, they can't get a star. How do they get them? Okay, this is way. One guy is looking for a change of scenery. But, it made me kind of think a little bit more on that. Like, some of these teams, like, make the deal for business reasons, maybe not even basketball reasons. Like, hey, we can't find a star. We don't want to tank. Let's get this guy. So the problem with those teams, though, Paul, is they don't have a lot to give you. You don't want to be going to a team asking for a lot of draft picks, right? You don't want draft picks back in a deal. You want established players. That's why those Midwestern smaller market teams might not make any sense.
Right. Well, it makes sense if you're getting another team involved. If it's the Minnesota Timberwolves, yeah, there's nothing really on that Timberwolves roster that interests me. Honestly, the only player that would interest me would be Anthony Edwards, but his timeline, he's just so young. And I don't think the Timberwolves are in any hurry to move him because I think they view him as a part of their future. And if they were getting Ben Simmons, they would want him to be a part of that. So yeah, to me, it would have to be a third team involved. And whether that's, I don't know, name a team to get the Chicago Bulls to get Zach LaVine here. Whether that's the Wizards, who, again, Ben Simmons probably wouldn't be a great fit on the Wizards, but if you can work around a 3-team trade where Bradley Beal ends up in Philadelphia, Ben Simmons ends up in Minnesota, and a bunch of draft picks end up in DC, along with, I don't know, Malik Beasley or someone like that, then that seems like a more tenable situation. So that's why you can't kind of rule out some of these teams that maybe can't get a star. Or even like, so let's say a team like Portland, let's say Dame Lillard. If you're Portland, if you're Neil Olshey, where else are you going to get a multi-time all-star and a team that, you know what I mean? Like, that has all the ingredients that makes sense. Because let's be realistic. If Portland loses Dame Lillard, how the heck are they going to get another all-star in the building? The only reason they have all-stars in the building is because they drafted them. So, from that standpoint, if you're Neil Olshey, and to your point about, selling tickets, if Ben Simmons is still young, he's an exciting player when he is right. You put him in a place like Portland, and it has a pretty loyal fan base. Yeah. If they get behind him, that could be a really good boon for them. Not to say it's going to be fair value because you're talking about Dame Lillard, but yeah, I think there are scenarios that make sense with some of those smaller market teams where they're getting a Ben Simmons, where that does help attendance, where that does help maybe give a promise for the future. And then there are ways for the Sixers to also get players that benefit them in that type of deal.
Yep. I think that'll be interesting, and we talked about Sacramento and the possibility of them, whatever they could give up. Toronto was another name mentioned. What do you think would be interesting from Toronto?
I don't know. I've seen some people say Siakam. I don't love that fit when you already have Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid. I like Siakam, but I don't like. I would want a guard. I would probably want Van Vliet. Or if there's a way that I can get the Kyle Lowry sign and trade, but I'd probably want more than that. I know we discussed that the other day, and I kind of said I was on the fence about it. But I think in a sign and trade scenario where I'm also giving Kyle Lowry a new contract, I would want more if I'm giving up Ben Simmons in that regard. So I don't know what kind of sweetener they could add on top of Kyle Lowry, whether that's picks, whether that's, I don't know. Again, those guys are the guys on the roster that intrigue me the most, whether it's probably Van Vliet is the guy that would probably, just to sum it up, that would be the guy if I'm looking at Toronto's roster and I'm not looking at Kyle Lowry in a sign and trade, Van Vliet would be the guy I'd have most interest in. And even that, I'm not sure that's a great one-for-one deal.
All right, Paul Hudrick at Paul Hudrick. More on the Sixers offseason as well coming up. They got the NBA Finals on Saturday night. So Bucks in 6 has been the chant. You feeling it?
No, I think it's going 7. I really do, because I think this is what happens in playoff series, though. You know what I mean? Like the tide turns. Like the first 2 games, it looked like no one could beat the Suns. Then last game, it looks like the Suns couldn't get out of their own way, which is rare for the Suns. The Suns don't do that. The Suns do not beat themselves. That is a rare thing that you see. But credit to the Bucks, credit to Drew Holiday defensively and the job he's done. Credit to their, to Giannis and how great he's been. That block was one of the most insane plays I've ever seen. It was crazy, and to do it on that stage. So yeah, I just think the tide always turns in a playoff series, especially the finals. So I could easily see the Suns winning game 5, then the Bucks winning game 6, and it going game 7. I think it's going 7. I still kind of lean towards the Suns because of what I referenced. They don't make mistakes. That was such an atypical game for them in game 4, and I don't see them, and I don't see Chris Paul having another game like that. I think Suns in 7 would be my guess.
All right, you like Suns in 7. I'm so torn on this, man. I said it would be 2-2, and then I thought it would get down to this spot here. I'm starting to like the Bucks a little bit more. I like what they've done defending Chris Paul and challenging him full court almost, like making him have to work to get the ball up the court, and he's been turning the ball over. I mean, that's where you wonder how much wear and tear on those legs. Can he handle it? So I'm feeling the Bucks right. Middleton was great the other night, and that's where, like, I was saying this the other day, Paul, it's like Giannis is like Embiid. He'll score 35, but late in the game, he's not like the greatest piece late, but that's where Middleton checks in. And even though Middleton had 31, that's where I think the Sixers lack the most, is Embiid can get you 35 to 40, but in the last 45 seconds or 2 minutes, really, that's where Tobias Harris needs to maybe take over, and I don't think he's equipped to take over. He can get you 20, but those 20 are going to come in the first 3 quarters and, 8 minutes of the fourth. That's where Middleton, I think, has found his niche, and that's where it's like Giannis can get you 40, but in the last 2 minutes, it's your turn. That's what I think the Sixers lack. They have the guy to get them 40. Who's the guy that gets those last 2-minute points?
No, it all comes down to shot creation. I've been saying that for a while, and when you're in those guts of the game, especially in the playoffs, that's what it's all about. It's a guy who you can just give the ball to and say, go get me a bucket. And both of these teams that are in the finals have that. They have, the Bucks have, like you said, when Middleton is right, Middleton's really good at creating his own offense. Drew Holiday, to an extent, when he's asked to do it, he can do it. Like you said, Giannis probably not down the stretch, but throughout the course of the game, he sure as heck can create his own offense. And then the Suns have 2 guys in Booker and Chris Paul that can do that. And even Campaign off the bench creates a little bit, can create offense and do some things in that regard. So, the Sixers don't really have, they kind of have one guy who could do that. And that's Tyrese Maxey, and it's a 20-year-old rookie. So I think that's an excellent point. That's what they sorely lack. They lack a shot creator that can, at the end of the game, you give him the ball, you say, go get me a bucket. Then this finals is proving that you need guys like that.
Paul Hudrick, more on the Sixers, of course, all offseason. It's going to be crazy, we think, and the draft is coming up as well. We'll get into draft conversation at Paul Hudrick on Twitter, and he joined me here on this Happy Hour Friday. All right, Paul, enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You as well, Mike. Take care, man.
All right, there's Paul Hudrick giving us some insight on what he thinks could happen with Ben Simmons. There's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a lot of moving parts because you know what? The Sixers, I think, are anticipating that they're going to get more offers coming in and more teams interested. You might not believe that, but They're going to take their time on this. They are not going to pull the trigger so quickly to move Ben, unless they say, look, we got Dame Lillard right here for us. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Adam Caplan, Football at 4 is 19 minutes away. And on today's Football at 4, what's the make of the persistent Deshaun Watson rumors to the Eagles? What is the connection there? Does it make sense? Eagles training camp battles on the defensive side of the ball. We'll take a look at some of the key names to keep an eye on when Tuesday, the 27th, comes around. All that and more on the Sports Bash. Sports Bash brought to you by East Coast Roofing, Siding, Windows, serving all of South Jersey. If you call, they'll show up online at eastcoastroofing.com. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Tons of social media engagement today, as we appreciate everybody who takes the time to send us a text, tweet, video message, whatever you're doing, wherever you're consuming the show. You have a lot of options out there. We know that, and we do appreciate you making the choice to listen to us, like us or not. We do appreciate you out there. We understand that we are not for everybody. Not everybody likes our show or likes our takes, but we do appreciate you listening and engaging. That is very nice, and I can appreciate all of you who do it. Justin in Brigantine is one of them. He says Simmons, Harris, and Curry for Lillard, McCollum, and a second rounder. Well, it sounds like the Brigantine Beach opened a little early today. Maybe they're even serving free beer over there. That's not happening. The free beer, maybe the trade that gentleman, Justin in Brigantine, who seems to be a nice guy. I don't know him. But Simmons, Harris, and Curry for Lillard and McCollum is not happening. First off, I'm not even sure that could happen salary-wise. Maybe you've already done the trade machine on that, but Harris has a max deal. Lillard has a max deal. Simmons and McCollum maybe match up. I don't know, maybe it would, but yeah, that deal is not happening. But I do appreciate you chiming in. Run it back and let the team have one more year together, possibly push Ben to be a better player. I think it's plausible that could happen, that they run it back and just add around. And as Daryl Morey said, that we have some younger players that we think are going to help the team out. Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, those type of players. What else we got here? Some more text messages, 609-403-0973. Tim from Hartley, Delaware. Hartley, Delaware. I have never seen Hartley, Delaware in my life. I've never heard of it, but Tim, welcome. And I can see you're from Delaware from the 302. Tim in the 302. He says, make the trade for Dame Lillard for Ben Simmons now. It is a no-brainer. Sixers need to stop screwing up and play grown man basketball. Would never be in this situation if they re-signed Jimmy Butler. This team is missing his buckets. All right, there's a lot to unpack here. Make the trade Lillard for Simmons now. One, it's not going to be a one-for-one deal. So I'm not saying you're insinuating that. I'm just telling the people. It would not be Simmons for Lillard. You're going to have to give up more than Simmons to get Dame. Two, Sixers need to stop screwing up and play grown man basketball. I'm imagining you're making a general statement that Ben Simmons doesn't shoot, and sure, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to read that part of it. Would never be in this position if they re-signed Jimmy Butler. There's a lot there with the Butler. I mean, Butler's not a great shooter. He's a guy that can get buckets, but they had Butler on the team. And quite frankly, Butler wasn't good enough to get him past the Raptors. You know, Jimmy Butler had his chance to be the main guy on this team. They gave him the ball late. If you remember that series, the whole reason Jimmy Butler's not here is because they gave him the ball late in the Raptors series, and he couldn't get it done. Look, I like Jimmy Butler. I think he's great. But Jimmy Butler was the guy here. They gave him the ball late in the Raptors series, and he failed. He failed, Jimmy Butler, here. It was Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris. And Jimmy Butler wasn't good enough to be the guy on that team and get them there. You can make all the arguments you want that, well, Ben didn't do that, and this guy was hurt, and Joel Embiid had the runs, and yeah. Jimmy Butler had a chance to win that Game 7. He didn't do it. He had a chance to win other games in that series. I like Jimmy Butler, but you're not winning the championship if Jimmy Butler is the best player on your team. Yeah, they got to the finals last year in the bubble, which I think a lot of people are finding out now that home court advantage is a big deal. Not for the Sixers, apparently, but playing in front of nobody is a different scenario. Would the Heat have gotten to the NBA Finals last year had they had gone on the road and played basketball games at Milwaukee? Probably not. Jimmy Butler is not this elite closer. Is he a closer? Sure. But is he an elite closer? Not really sure about that. 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. Hit us up on the text board. More messages over on the video stream. Kyle says, Giannis didn't come into the league as a star. He developed into one. Yes, that is accurate. Giannis was kind of a raw guy who – we talked about this with Michael Lee the other day. And if you missed that conversation, I certainly tell you to go check it out on our YouTube channel. It is also going to be a part of the Best Of show tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The conversation with Michael Lee says a lot about the differences between Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ben Simmons, which Michael Lee kind of suggests Ben Simmons is a more talented player, more skillful player, that Giannis just has more inner fire. He has more in the ticker. Kyle also says Ben Simmons came into the league as a perceived star. That's why he went number one. Giannis wasn't even a lottery pick. Well, Giannis wasn't a lottery pick because nobody knew him. I mean, if he had played college basketball over here, maybe, and got scouted by everybody, he did not play over here. So there was a lot less information on him than Ben. But yeah, I mean, Giannis was just a raw kid that really came here and nobody knew much about. The Bucks, give him credit. They found this kid and 14, 15 teams passed on him. Mike, this is from Jay Jones. Jenny Jones. She was the talk show host. Remember, somebody got murdered from that show. It was on the Jenny Jones show. Never mind. The text message says, Jimmy Butler had the same problem with Ben that everyone else did. He could not get Ben to shoot, so Ben was a liability still. Yeah, I mean, that is the most amazing thing to me, though, Jay Jones, is that somebody hasn't been able to get to him. A teammate, somebody that, says, dude, what the heck? You're holding us back. That is the most amazing thing to me. I can't fathom it. You would think that they're just breaking his stones all day, every day. Just dude, you don't shoot. Dude, shoot the ball. Shoot the ball. And then he would get to him. Wouldn't you think? I know if he was my teammate, I would be. I wouldn't be holding back. 609-403-0973. Text messages, keep them coming. We'll get back to the text board in just a minute. Text message says, when Jimmy Butler got on Ben, Ben couldn't take it, was not tough enough. Maybe. I don't think that's incorrect. What I will say is this. Brett Brown gave the ball to Jimmy Butler at the end of a game. We all thought you all thought Brett Brown was the problem. Doc Rivers sees Ben Simmons in the same light as he should be having the ball in his hand. So I go back to, is the organization the one that is allowing, I want to say, Ben Simmons to not be tough enough, maybe? Right? 609-403-0973. Great take by Paul. If Dame wants out, the Blazers need another all-star in the trade because they can't sign free agents. Ben is the guy with a maxi, plus Dame is the guy in the last 2 minutes the Sixers absolutely need. Yeah, Paul Hudrick brought that up on Friday, too, is that all the teams right now interested in Ben Simmons, they cannot get a star. They have to trade for him. They can't get him in free agency. That's why Ben Simmons will have a lot of offers.
A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hey, got him!
WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Caplan.
I have real confidence that our football operations can once again create a dominant football team.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the Prop Swap app today. Good chance for you to Prop Swap, guys. The odds have come out for plenty of things, including what's going on in the British Opens. If you want to get involved with all the British Open, you can keep prop swapping those bets. Check them out at PropSwap.com. All right, Adam Caplan. We like to refer to him as the third member of the NWO. Of course, he joins us on a special Happy Hour Friday. He's not typically here on Happy Hour Friday. What's going on, Adam?
Mike, good to talk to you. Yeah, I was participating in Mid-Penn Bank's celebrity golf tournament on Thursday. Great job by those people. And for breast cancer awareness, kudos to those people. Rory Retrieve, he's the president of Mid-Penn Bank, and all the people there. And it was great. This is held in Hershey, PA, and also the golf was held in Harrisburg. But it was great. It was great to see everyone. Saw Ron Jaworski there. Many former Eagles going back to the 70s. It was pretty great event, and that's what I did in a very hot Thursday. So here I am. Back on a Friday, which I was last season.
Yes, absolutely. Happy Hour Friday. He is back. So obviously, yesterday you missed all the hoopla over what Adam Schefter had to say, which was watch Philadelphia when it comes to a Deshaun Watson trade. He said, quote, there is no team out there better positioned and better armed to go trade for Deshaun Watson than the Philadelphia Eagles. He mentioned the draft capital, that they have depth at certain positions, that they are in the NFC conference. All of those factors. Mike Tannenbaum furthered it by saying it's no secret that the Eagles have interest in Deshaun Watson. So, Adam Caplan, I ask you, what do we make of the persistent Deshaun Watson and Eagle rumors?
Yeah, so Mike, let me bring it back to mid-March. We reported on we were quoted from Inside the Birds. We had heard before the off-the-field allegations came to the surface that the Eagles had interest in Deshaun Watson. We've been saying periodically throughout the several months here that they've been monitoring the situation. Jeff Moshe and I have been reporting that repeatedly, really. We probably mentioned it like every 3 or 4 shows that they're monitoring the situation, but there's been nothing new. There's really nothing new other than to say this. We know for a fact the Eagles still are monitoring, still have interest. But they have company. We're told that the Eagles are not the only team. I know the Panthers backed off. They made the trade for Darnold. We reported on Inside the Birds first that they were not comfortable with the information that was out there. After the situation surfaced, the allegations, I would tell you that I would have bet the house it was going to be the Eagles versus the Panthers in free agency to get Watson. Now the question is going forward here. A couple things: are the Texans willing to trade him? Obviously, they are. He wants out. Watson did not report their offseason program. This is going to be a divorce at some point. That's my feeling. The question is, will he be dealt this year or next year? Their issue is holding this up. Is he going to be suspended or not? Is he going to be cleared to play this season or to report? We know he doesn't. He probably won't report to training camp. That seems to be the indication. When they report the Texans do on the 27th, the first practice should be the 28th. The question is the league going to clear him to play? Will suspension be coming down? Theoretically, you would think there would be, but we don't know that for a fact. Will he go on the commissioner's exempt list? That would take him off the field as a paid leave. So there's so many questions here. And by the way, with paid leave, the question would be, would he be able to be paid if he doesn't show up to training camp first and then be taken off the field with a paid leave? We just don't know these answers to these questions. But we do know the Eagles have had interest, and it's kind of what we know. It's complicated. It's my 21 years, Mike, of covering the National Football League. This is one of the most unique situations I could ever remember.
I imagine.
And the Eagles just happen to have interest in this player. I can't say for sure the Eagles would have gotten him because I know the Panthers really like Deshaun Watson to start free agency. As we said, they moved off of him and traded for Sam Darnold. But it doesn't leave a lot of teams vying for him. But when you look at it, yeah, sure, the Eagles have 2 first-round picks now for next year. And most likely, if Carson Wentz doesn't get hurt, they're going to have a 3rd pick. Now, the question then would be, to finish this off before we move on to other subjects, is what would the Texans want for Watson? We knew, we've said this on our show, that we feel like it was going to be, before the off-the-field allegations came to the surface, would be a minimum of 3 first-round picks. It could have been more, by the way, maybe 1 or 2 starters. Because if you look at it, Mike, first of all, what NFL team has 3 first-round picks? Oh, the Eagles do. How many of them in the future would be bad, like high first-round picks? The Raiders learned this lesson when they traded away Khalil Mack. They thought the Bears would be bad in 2018. They weren't. They went in the division in 2018, the NFC North. So if you're gonna trade Deshaun Watson, you better get really good first-round picks. Well, the Colts' first-round pick, if it is going to be coming from the Colts next year because of the Carson Wentz trade, that won't be a very good first-round pick. Well, the Eagles most likely next year will have a very good first-round pick. We know that. So, and then we have the Dolphins' first-round pick, which theoretically probably won't be very high. At worst, it's probably going to be in the middle. But the Texans have to look at this situation. Do they have a ton of leverage here because of his off-the-field allegations? So we're talking about Watson here. So there's a lot to unpack, Mike. It's really complicated. It's very, very unique. But the Eagles clearly, of all the teams that need quarterback for next season, Denver is unsettled. Miami, they're a sleeper team for this because of there are a lot of people around the league wonder if Tua's the future quarterback for the Dolphins. I know they drafted him 5th overall last year, but we'll have to see how he plays this season. Derek Carr's future. He's signed for 2 seasons, but there's no guaranteed money left. And I know John Gruden likes him, but you have to see what happens there. And is there a sleeper team? We'll have to see, but it's really a fascinating situation.
It really is. Let me ask you this question. Let's say, and you said it, there is no timeline. But let's say they made a trade for Deshaun Watson before the season. Does that change?
The Eagles.
Does that change the expectations of this year's team?
Hell yeah. Oh, are you kidding? Well, there's no question about it. Because right now there's tremendous uncertainty of how Jalen Hurts would play. Played in 5 games, started 4. Very uneven. Showed some upside against Arizona, where I was very impressed with the way that he handled himself, taking a safety on the first series. Really brought the team back. Did well enough in that game for them to win, but their defense collapsed in that game, as you know. The question then would be, would he elevate the level of play of the team on offense? The answer would be obviously. He had the best year of his career, wasn't even close, 2017. Watson was terrific. He's a gamer. He's a leader. I know off the field you have some significant questions.
Big time.
There's no doubt. You have to wonder, even if a team trades for him, can you trust him off the field for the future? That's the other part of this situation. You just don't know.
The trust is a good point.
Well, I'm sorry?
The trust is a good point because we're talking earlier with someone who covers the Phillies about the reaction that Herrera has been getting.
Yeah.
Not much. Like it lasted maybe his first at bat. He got a couple boots, and then after that, it kind of – so it's almost like the backlash you think is going to be there, but the Herrera stuff really did not last very long, and Herrera is just a mid-level player.
Right. Now with Watson, see, the complication of the Watson situation is if you followed his career, he does really, really good charity work. Really great stuff. And then you have what's been alleged, because you do wonder, who is Deshaun Watson as a person? Is the guy that's tremendously charitable, or is he the guy that has got a minimum of 22 allegations against him for sexual harassment and otherwise? So it's a tough situation to kind of put together.
Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. The new podcast is dropping. It dropped yesterday, I should say. And Eagles training camp battles, 2 Tuesdays from now. These will start. Some very interesting ones. So, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. Let's start with those 2. Fletcher, still very good. Javon Hargrave, we think might be even better than he was late in the year last year. He had some injury issues. So what else is there? What are you keeping an eye on at that position?
Yeah, the battles are, and this is pretty much the entire defense. It's the first time, and I'd have to go back and research it, but certainly in 2016 is the last time we've seen anything like this. Every backup D tackle job is open. The battle is going to be this. Hassan Ridgeway, who they like, but he's been hurt a lot. Milton Williams, who will mostly be a D tackle, I believe, and play a little bit of defensive end if needed. Marlon Tuipulotu, the rookie, at a 6th-round pick, who the Eagles had a higher grade than a 6th round. They really like him. Raekwon Williams, who they give her pretty significant deals in undrafted free agents. So the battle is going to be who's going to be 3, 4, and 5. Well, that is if they only are going to keep 4 or 5. We don't know that they'll keep at least 4. You have to. Will they keep 5 D tackles? My sense is only 4, because they've shown the willingness to, at times, to bring in Josh Sweat, play him inside a nickel, Brandon Graham move him inside, stuff like that. So they'll be good there. The question is, again, are they going to keep or who's going to be 3 and 4? We're not going to know that, Mike, for a while. That's a pretty good battle. And this Tuipulotu, they really like a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting because 2 of those guys are rookies. So do you go with 2 rookies behind your 2 veterans? Yeah, and
Ridgeway, I mean, when you say he's not a vested veteran, but he's been here enough. The question is for Hassan Ridgeway. I just don't. He is not contributing enough to be that guy. We just don't. We don't know now with Hassan Ridgeway. What is he capable of doing? Because he barely played. You know, he was a 4th round in 2016. Actually, technically, he would be a vested veteran. To correct that, he would be, but he just has not played enough. He was on IR with the Eagles in 19 when they made the trade from the Colts, but he just has not proven anything. So the other thing is, do they sign a veteran to compete? They don't have a vet. When I say a veteran, someone who's done it before. They don't have that guy as a backup.
All right. Defensive end's another interesting one because Brandon Graham, obviously solid. Derek Barnett, still kind of an inconsistent wild card. Josh Sweat, we like his role. But other than that, they brought in Kerrigan. Don't forget that. But they made some moves. Jannard Avery, they moved to linebacker. Joe Ostman, they moved to linebacker. So what's the defensive end story that you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, when we first reported Avery was moving to linebacker, I was a little bit surprised because I really thought that he'd be a perfect 34 outside linebacker. He's got really long arms for, he is only about between 6 and 6'1". But that's why they think he'd be better off playing linebacker standing up, and that's what he'll be. He'll compete for that strong side linebacker job with Ostman. Ryan Kerrigan will bounce back from DN to linebacker. My guess would be Kerrigan will be more of a DN than a linebacker, but we won't know his exact role until we get probably to mid-August. So the backup jobs at linebacker, which will combine every one of them. We know this. Eric Wilson will be a starting linebacker. The Eagles are going to be a nickel defense team. They're not playing base hardly at all. They're going to be mostly nickel. So that means 2 guys will start. It'll be Eric Wilson absolutely will be a starter. The other one, Alex Singleton, will be on this football team. He probably would be the other guy. I don't know if there's anyone who could challenge him. T.J. Edwards is very limited because he's not a pass coverage guy. Davion Taylor's a project. You mentioned Ostman, who probably won't make the team. If he does, it'll be mostly special teams. Jacoby Stevens is a major project, going from safety to linebacker. He's a long shot to me to make the team. He's got to prove himself at training camp. Sean Bradley should be on the team as a special teamer. He could back up middle linebacker. He could also play outside. But he was really drafted to be a special teamer. And Patrick Johnson, who's got pass rush skill, who's a rookie. They won't keep 6. I think to me, they'll keep 5. The backup jobs to me right now would be Bradley, Edwards, Davion Taylor. Davion Taylor will be on special teams. He'll be on every special team because he could flat out fly. He is their fastest special teams player on the Eagles.
All right. I like that, breakdown there. Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton, you mentioned, should be the starters at linebacker. Now, if I ask you to pick starters at corner, that might be a little bit more difficult. Darius Slay, we know, and then everything else seemingly is up for grabs. We're still holding out or waiting to see if they bring in a veteran outside corner.
Yeah, well, they want to, and they're going to. But what I would caution people, just like I've been cautioning myself when people close the situation, the season doesn't start till September. You got to keep telling yourself that because you see what I see and the fans see. There's a major hole opposite Darius Slay. Here's what we do know. If it goes like we think it'll go, Maddox will be their slot corner. Slay will be a starting outside corner. They'll either sign Steven Nelson sign a veteran corner off the street, or they'll trade for a veteran corner. Zach McPherson will compete for the starting outside corner job for now. Kevon Seymour should make it. Michael Jaquette is competing for a job with Josiah Scott and Craig James. James should make it. They're either going to keep 5 or 6 corners, but because we don't know who that guy they're going to add later on at some point, Mike, opposite Slay, it kind of complicates the matter. So Kevon Seymour is a guy to watch out for. We had him on NFL radio as a pretty sharp guy and a great story of overcoming a lot of challenges in his career, particularly with injury. He is the one veteran of those backups. So I'll put him on the roster. So I think it's going to be Slay, Maddox, McPherson, Seymour, and James is 5. If they add the veteran, that's 6. Now, teams typically don't keep 6. Michael Jaquette would be probably the odd man out. Why do I say that? He's a major project. He played good half of one game last season, I was told. It's been a narrative that has been overvalued by the fans. The fans who keep telling me how good he is, they're not talking to people who actually work in the NFL. The Eagles don't, my sources and Jeff's sources would tell us he wasn't really that good. But he's got one thing going for him. He's got length, and that is good. You want to have that. And he can run a little bit. Remember, he's a former receiver, so he's a project, and he's got a ways to go.
Interesting. Would you have any interest? Would the team have any interest in like Dre Kirkpatrick, a veteran guy?
We've talked about him. He's one of the few guys out there that would make some sense. Former first rounder of the Bengals, played for the Cardinals. He's out there, but we had checked into it. He wasn't on their radar as of a couple weeks ago. But at some point, you would think they'd bring him in and work him out just to see where he is physically, but we'll see.
All right, safety, because there's some interesting stories here. You got Rodney McLeod, who's coming off a major injury. Anthony Harris, who had a really good year in Minnesota to the point they franchised him and then slipped off last year, and that made him a free agent. Kayvon Wallace, draft choice. Marcus Epps, Andrew Adams coming over from Tampa Bay. So some interesting names at safety.
Yeah, so Rodney McLeod, the key is, will he be on the opening day roster? Meaning, will he be on active PUP, then move to reserve PUP, which means he misses 6 weeks? Or would he be on the 53 and be active? We don't know that. We're not going to know for a while. Anthony Harris, Wallace, Epps will be on the roster. I don't know if Andrew Adams will be for sure. He's more of a fourth safety special teamer, so we'll see. McLeod being on the active roster will come down to really what they think he can do and not do to start the season, because you can't expect him to be himself early on, Mike. Right now, I don't know if they'll add anyone. This one's tough to call because Harris will definitely start. The question is, if McLeod's not ready, who starts, Epps or Wallace? That's, to me, the battle. Who's going to be that third safety? That is going to be the battle in training camp.
Yeah, and the third safety might be very key, as you mentioned. If Rodney McLeod's not ready to go here, they're going to need that third guy to really be a big part of it. So defensively, if they got a corner, what kind of defense is this? Is this still just an average defense?
Well, it depends. It depends on several factors. Is the offense able to carry them? Can they score enough points? Defensively, because the scheme is completely different from the wide nine. We're told it's a 180. They're not running wide nine anymore. They're going to be more of a read and react front. That means that there'll be a good run defense. They're going to do a lot of pre-snap disguise to confuse the quarterback, to make him hold on to a little bit. That's going to help force turnovers, which we know were a real problem with the Eagles in the secondary. They just didn't force hardly any. So it's going to be changed. It's going to change. Now, they've got a new coaching staff on defense. It's just the scheme's going to be different. It's going to be fun to watch. They've got a bunch of younger coaches on defense mixing with some veterans. I look forward to seeing this defense, Mike, because it's going to be complete. The wide nine is jumped. That was the first little nugget we had back in February when we were digging into this, is that the wide nine is extinct here with the Eagles, and that I think some people are probably glad to see.
Yeah, and I guess on the wide nine being gone, do we anticipate not seeing as much pressure from the front four guys, which is what Jim Schwartz really said. I don't need to blitz. I'm getting pressure from those guys.
Well, it's a read and react defense, which means they got to hold up they just got to hold up. It doesn't mean that they can't rush the passer. It just means that they're not playing the run on the way of the quarterback like they used to. That's what the wide nine is. So we'll see. It's just different. There's a lot we don't know with coverages yet. We're not totally sure with the back end whether it could be cover 2, 3, or 4. That that I'm told you got to be careful thinking everything's the same as the Vikings. It won't be. It'll be similar, but there'll be some differences.
He's Adam Caplan. That's a look at the battles at training camp on the Eagles' defensive side of the ball. For more in-depth conversation, check out the Inside the Birds podcast on the defensive side. It dropped this Thursday morning. Adam's usually on Thursday. That's why I'm in that mode. But it dropped yesterday. A new one is dropping on Monday, every Monday and Thursday. And I'm imagining when camp gets here, you guys will be putting out some news on an expansion of the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, well, here are a couple things. A little bit before I get out of here. We actually just released this within the last couple hours. We did a special Inside the Birds TV interview with Todd Hermans. This is one of our favorite ones. We just put it on YouTube and all the other pod platforms. We went through a lot in 25 minutes. I mean, we went through a ton of stuff that we never talked to Todd about before. He's got some great insight. And then we'll give you a little nugget. We haven't announced this, so we'll announce it now. We're doing an interview with Peter King, which will probably not drop Tuesday. And we're going over a lot of stuff. I can't wait for everybody to hear that. And then we're going to do a live stream probably leading up the following week, leading up to the opening of training camp. We'll have more scoops there. So a lot going on with Inside the Birds, Mike.
Yep, and training camp July the 27th, and you can expect plenty on Football at 4 that entire week to get you ready for the start of Eagles camp. Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds, and the Inside the Birds podcast. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, he is a part of Happy Hour Friday today. This Friday, Adam will be back on Thursday in his normal spot next week for all of you out there. I will not be here on Thursday at the Sports Bash Live. Yes, next week, Thursday, Friday, I will be out. And maybe Monday, Tuesday. We'll see how my squad fares at the Mid-Atlantic Regionals. We are heading to Altoona, PA. Thanks to Josh. He'll be filling in for me for a couple days. Maybe, hopefully 4 days. 4 would be great. 2 would mean, well, we didn't do so good. Or maybe we did so good, we just didn't get as far as we wanted to. How about that? Congratulations to my guys, though. They won a state championship the other day. Worked hard at practice last night. I was very happy to see that. You can get very complacent. You win, then you don't want to work hard. Nope. Those guys worked hard last night. So congratulations to them. All right, Sports Bash Live. Wow. Got the weekend edition of Do You Remember? July 16, 17, 18. These are things that happened on this day. Do you remember? And that is coming up next, plus my conversation with Bob Wankel on the Phillies second half. Yeah, now we know Aaron Nola will pitch on Tuesday. But has he been better than the numbers say? We have that and more coming up at 4:40, right around there, with Bob Wankel today. And Pete Thompson for Happy Hour Friday. Jeff Kerr tonight, more on the NFL. I love this time of the day. Do you remember? These are things that happened on this day, the weekend edition. So we'll take a look at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some big events that happened in sports on this day. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. My producer is Josh Henning. What's going on, dude?
How you doing, Mike? Had a good day?
You know I'm having a good day. You've been here the whole time with me.
Well, I would like the audience to know you're having a good day. You know, sometimes turn on the microphone and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, behind the scenes, I'm having a lousy day. It's happy hour Friday. By the way, Josh, check out his Fitness Friday blog post right now. Important key to fat loss that you can start right now.
That's right. It's something that anybody can do.
Anybody can do this.
Anybody can do this.
You are certified fitness.
Yes. National Academy of Sports Medicine certified fitness nutritional specialist, among other certifications.
And every Friday has his Fitness Friday. Well, I'm not allowed to call it a blog, so Fitness Friday post? I don't know.
Piece of advice.
There you go. You can get that at 973ESPN.com. It is really good reading. I recommend everybody check it out. All right, you ready?
I'm ready if you're ready.
1941, Joe DiMaggio. Joltin' Joe DiMaggio successfully hit his 56th straight game, a 10-3 win by the Yanks over the Indians at Municipal Stadium. DiMaggio's streak, it's one of the most unbreakable records in Major League Baseball history. 56 straight.
It is unbreakable. It'll never be broken, Mike.
It's been approached.
It's been approached.
What's more unbreakable, that one or Cal Ripken? That was
Cal
on
Ripken. Cal Ripken is like that to the umpteenth power.
How about that? It's a strong one.
Well, you know, I've been reading too many
The
scientific
umpteenth
digests
power.
today, so.
Like L. Ron Hubbard. Remember those? The Scientologist guy?
Yeah.
Oakland A's first baseman Mark McGwire hits his 31st home run of the season at Oakland's Alameda County Coliseum, 1996. Remember Mark McGwire playing for the A's? Like, people even forget that now because, you know, people remember his in 98 with the Cardinals.
He also had a very famous rookie card because it was one of the first cards ever produced where the player was put on a non-real background. It was called an insert. So it was McGwire's figure put on a background that was not the actual natural environment of the picture.
There's some insight for you.
Random useless information for your Friday.
Now, I need to fact check that. I just don't have the time or ability to do it right now.
I'll pull it up for you.
2005, Jermaine Taylor wins the undisputed middleweight championship of the world with a controversial split decision over Bernard Hopkins at the MGM Grand in Vegas. He beat Hopkins again 5 months later. That time was by unanimous decision. This is when boxing was like the middleweights in 05, like that area. You had some really good stuff. Jermaine Taylor, people forget how good he was. But Hopkins, you know, he came back from all that and ended up being better as he got older.
Multiple comebacks, by the way. It wasn't just one. He came back multiple times from things people didn't think he could come back from, but he did every single time.
2018, then Washington Nationals right fielder Bryce Harper beats Cubs outfielder Kyle Schwarber in bonus time to win the home run derby. Harper hit 9 home runs in 50 seconds. How about that? Remember that when Harper went crazy and hit those 9 home runs in like under a minute?
And don't forget about the fact that
you're not a good multitasker. Let's not look this Jermaine Taylor thing up.
Let's see if we look up Jermaine
Whatever
Taylor,
it was. The Oakland A's thing, I don't really need to know that. I'll fact check you myself because I won't believe your own fact checking of your own facts.
Well,
you're not a good enough multitasker to be able to do that.
Probably not, but
no, probably not. Definitively not. You know who hit all the home runs? Did you even hear what I was saying?
Bryce Harper.
There you go. All right, here we go.
Not Pete Thompson.
1974, Bob Gibson joins Walter Johnson as the only players to record 3,000 strikeouts. He gets Cincinnati Reds out for Ciso Geronimo at Busch Stadium, but they don't make him like Bob Gibson and Walter Johnson anymore.
No, especially the way Bob Gibson was the intimidator. You know, he would look into your soul and eat you alive.
I've been liking these during the Do You Remembers. These are things that happened, by the way, on the 17th, which is Saturday. Michigan Panthers quarterback Bobby Hebert hit Anthony Carter, A.C. Carter, with a 48-yard touchdown pass with 3 minutes and 11 seconds left to beat the Philadelphia Stars 24-22 It's the inaugural USFL championship game at Mile High Stadium. The Stars went on to win the next 2 titles, but the Michigan Panthers were the first ever USFL champions.
There were a lot of really good quarterbacks in the USFL, and Bobby Abear was probably like the 6th or 7th one.
Yeah, we talked about this the other day, why the XFL doesn't work. It's because the USFL was a spring league that was trying to compete with the NFL. And by trying to compete, they went out and got the best quarterbacks. They went out and got star-level players.
They overpaid for them, too.
They overpaid, and that's why part of the reason why the league went bankrupt.
Small reasons.
Small reason. The big reason was they had an owner that was a buffoon who tried to move the league from the spring to the fall, and none of the owners wanted to do it, and the league went out of business.
Yeah, the guy with the fake hair.
We got a lot of fake hair out there. I mean, that league was doing well.
It was viable. It was at a point where outside of a couple teams, every team was financially and logistically fine.
Not all the teams were financially fine, but they were in a good position, right? In the fall, in the spring, they had a formula that was building and growing. They had the NFL noticing them, that they had to do some things. And unfortunately, they wanted to be the NFL, or one person wanted to be the NFL, and essentially was making stories up to the press, and sounds familiar, but was making a lot of things up. And unfortunately, the other owners were like, we never said any of this stuff. We don't want to go to the fall. We're happy with where we are. And the league went out of business.
Well, one man's grotesque ego ruins the whole bunch.
That's why there is no USFL. And that's why these new spring leagues can't make it, because they are not in it. The USFL was there to compete with the NFL, and they did a good job of it. They got Jim Kelly. They got Bobby Hebert. They got Steve Young. They got Herschel Walker. They got Anthony Carter.
They got Craig James.
They got the best players. What they didn't get, there wasn't a lot of depth. The linemen weren't great. Now, one team did go out and sign some linemen from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, that was part of the problem. They were paying, the lineman guys so much money that
wild money.
The one issue they were having was attendance. They weren't generating great crowds.
That, and also the fact that
they were on TV, though.
Right, and they were trying to get more TV money, and that's what led them down that negative road to allowing that one individual to ruin the whole bunch, because he made the promises they never kept.
It's kind of weird. I didn't envision that happening twice in my lifetime. Giants center fielder Willie Mays recorded his 3,000th hit in 1970 off Expos pitcher Mike Wagner. It's a 10-1 win for the Giants. But Willie Mays, 3,000 hits. That's another thing. Are we going to see another 3,000 hit guy?
I think it's possible if somebody.
Who's closest right now?
That's a very good question.
Who would your guess be?
If I had to guess somebody who was the closest,
yep.
Miguel Cabrera, maybe?
The active hitter who has the most career hits is Albert Pujols. He's over 3,000. You know who's closing in on the 3,000 hit mark?
Not Miguel Cabrera.
Miguel Cabrera.
Okay, there you go.
2,927.
I was trying to think of somebody
he's close.
He's been around long enough, who also has hit well enough.
Robinson Cano, Yadier Molina, Joey Votto, Nelson Cruz, Ryan Zimmerman, Elvis Andrus, Evan Longoria, and number 10, Andrew McCutcheon. You know who's on this list at number 22? Mike Trout has 1,419 hits.
Plays long enough, he has a chance.
Yeah, he's 29 years old. So he is not halfway there at 30 yet. He would need to have the same career he had.
What does he have right now? What's his number?
1,419.
He has 1,419.
Yep.
Okay. So that means he needs another 1,600.
Right. He's not even on pace
right. He's
almost there. The injury this year hurt him. He probably would have been close. If he would have been about right on pace to get 3,000 if he plays 10 more years.
He has to have 10 years of 160 hits.
He needs to have 10 years of the years he just had. Eek. That's tough.
It's certainly possible, but it's hard.
1976, Nadia Comaneci becomes the first person to score a perfect 10 at the Uneven Bars. She would get 6 more perfect 10s at the Summer Games in Montreal.
She also became the center point of the American gymnastic revolution, because when she and others from those countries, those Eastern Bloc countries, defected to America. They became some of the big coaches in United States gymnastics.
1999, Yankees pitcher Dave Cone throws a perfect game in a 6-0 win over the Expos. The Expos have been mentioned a lot today. Cone weathered a 33-minute rain delay in his pursuit of perfection. The game was part of Yogi Berra Day, a celebration at Yankee Stadium, and Don Larson, who pitched a perfect game in the 1956 World Series with Berra catching throughout the ceremonial first pitch that day.
What are the odds of that? Wow.
What are the odds of that is right?
The guy who threw a perfect game throws out the first pitch on the same day the actual starting pitcher throws a perfect game.
Crazy, right?
Gotta love baseball.
By the way, Gene Segura is 34th on the list with 1,309 hits. Just to throw that in there for you. The Phillies have 2 of the top 35 all-time active hit leaders.
And neither one of them are getting 3,000.
Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. All right, speaking of the Phils, we'll talk to Bob Wankel on this Phillies team, who are tied 0-0 in the second. They do have bases loaded with 2 outs here in the bottom of the first. We'll have more coming up here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. will throw tomorrow. Zach Wheeler will go on Sunday. No Aaron Nola out of the chutes here. And obviously, Wheeler threw 3 pitches in the All-Star game the other night. So are you surprised that they didn't go with Wheeler in one of these first 2 games here?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess if nothing else, I'm a little bit surprised they didn't go with him on Saturday night. You have these shortened games, and there is a little bit of a school of thought that, hey, you give the ball to Zach Wheeler for one of them. It's a 7-inning game, and maybe he just takes you right through it on his own. But I guess there is a little bit of a belief if you have a shortened game like this that you can maybe get away with that 4-inning start that Matt Moore has been giving them his last few times through the rotation. So I get both sides of it, but given that he only threw 1/3 of an inning the other night in the All-Star game, I'm a little bit surprised that they're giving him this extra time and having him go on Sunday. But he's been a workhorse. He has thrown a ton of innings this season, and so I guess they figured this is an opportunity for him to get a couple extra days, and that's probably best for him long term.
Yeah, I guess the Nola thing is the big one out there is he obviously got scratched because of COVID the first time, or I guess Sunday, and that he is not part of the 4 that will come out of the gates here. I guess I don't want to say concerning because we imagine that he would be back at some point, but I guess a little surprising that he was not included in this weekend series against the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, the way I understand it is that if you're out for contact tracing, you have a 7-day period, and then you have to test negative. And so, I guess I thought maybe there was a window here later in the weekend for Nola to come back on Sunday specifically. But the fact that they have Zach Wheeler slated to go on Sunday would indicate that there's really no wiggle room here, that, Aaron Nola is not pitching in this series, even if he kind of gets the green light to do so. So I guess optimistically speaking, you're hoping to see Aaron Nola sometime next week, whether that be against the Yankees or next weekend back at home. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. It's a big loss, though, in the short term.
Now, you wrote about Nola, and you said the numbers show that he should be better. So give us a little insight on what we might see from Nola in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I don't want to, overload anybody on numbers, but the overall gist of it is that, his velocity has basically been in line. The individual production against his pitches, specifically his curveball and his changeup, is up a little bit. But, if you look at StatCast and you play around with some of these advanced metrics and stuff, a lot of the numbers suggest that opponents have basically performed better against him than they really should so far in the early going. He's run into some bad luck, is the easiest way to say it. Now, that's not to completely absolve him of his struggles. I mean, bottom line is he has been absolutely terrible with runners in scoring position this year. He's not been able to bear down in key spots. Opponents have had a lot of success, much higher than his career averages, both with leadoff men and with 2 outs in innings and with runners in scoring position. So he just hasn't made big pitches in big spots consistently enough. But I do think that he's better than what he's pitched to this year, and I think we'll see an uptick in production in the second half.
Hey, I want to. You tweeted about Chase Anderson's line the other night at Lehigh. I think he pitched on Wednesday night. 3 2/3, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 3 Ks. Nothing spectacular. My question, I guess, for you is in the second half, he has had bullpen experience. Is he a guy they look at as a bullpen help coming back, or do they put him back in the rotation?
I don't think that Chase Anderson is a solution for this starting rotation unless something horrible goes wrong. I mean, as frustrating as Vince Velasquez has been, and Matt Moore, certainly does not evoke a lot of confidence either. I mean, Chase Anderson he's not very good, and it's very obvious that he is not very good, and he hasn't been good all year. So I don't understand, really barring major injuries, barring significant losses, I don't understand how you could put him back in the starting mix at this point. Does he help out in the bullpen? I mean, maybe if they get some injuries and they need a guy to pitch the 5th or 6th inning on a short start or low leverage spots, sure, I guess. But I honestly don't think that Chase Anderson is a big part of this team's major league plans moving forward.
All right, let's take a look at a couple other things that this weekend. How about not Malcolm Brogdon, Connor Brogdon in the second half? How his role might evolve?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got to get off the COVID-related IL first, but, when he does, he's a guy that really struggled in the month of April. He was a guy that I think if we talked before the season, I probably said on this show that he has closer stuff, that I thought there would be a door open for him to kind of move into the closer role. And the door has certainly been opened, but he has not been good enough to really assume that type of responsibility. So he was bad in April, but he's been much better since really the beginning of May, and it's been much, much better since the mid-June. And he's a guy that I think has a plus fastball, a very good changeup, someone that I think can pitch meaningful innings, big innings for this team down the stretch. He's one guy that I'm kind of banking on having a breakout second half for this team.
He's the one young guy, and I like him. He's the one guy that last year had a start that was rough and then pitched much better after he came back from going down to the whatever they did last year. They down to the camp, I guess it was.
Satellite, alternate site.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about why have they been playing well when you were on Monday, and their offense, they're finally back to full strength offensively, and if they could be one of the better offensive clubs, this should make this race interesting.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They've been fantastic offensively, really, all month. And even if you stretch the sample back to July or June 1st, they've still been really good, like a top 10 offense in a lot of key categories. But just going back now to the beginning of July this month, I mean, they're sixth in slugging percentage as a team. They're sixth in OPS. Some of the deeper metrics like ISO, like isolated power, all that stuff, top 5 offense. I mean, they've been a good offense now that they've been back on the field together, healthy, taking advantage of some spotty pitching. So one thing I'll tell you, Mike, when you project out this offense in the second half, the thing you have to keep in mind is we keep talking about how weak the schedule is. Well, if you are a weak team right now, leading up to the trade deadline, what are you going to look like after the trade deadline? So Philly should have some advantageous, matchups to take, be able to do some damage against.
We shall see how that schedule plays out. We know they have not played well against the Marlins. We do know that they do have the Yankees coming up and then a lot of National League East, Bob, before they play the Mets. They might know by the time they get to the Mets if they're in this thing or not, and that should really – there was a report, I guess, last night that suggested the Phillies are right now buyers.
Yeah, the indication – I think there was a report earlier today came out basically suggesting that the Phillies, if they look to buy, are going to be more interested in taking on salary. Trying to acquire salary dump type situations as opposed to parting ways with meaningful prospects. And, Mike, I think the thing here is that so much has been made about how this farm system, how this minor league system needs to be revamped. And, they're trying to get this thing going in the right direction. I don't foresee them parting with meaningful prospects at the deadline, but I do think
they'll have any meaningful prospects.
Yeah, I think that, the catching prospect, Marchand, I think would be kind of interesting for some teams. He's an elite defensive catcher, so there's some value there. They're deep at catcher in their system. They have some interesting names at low A that I think could net a return. But, certainly this is not a loaded farm system by any means, one that I think is going to, be needed to acquire a guy like Craig Kimbrell or somebody of that caliber.
Bob Wankel crossing broad. Obviously, this second half, the beginning of getting out of the chutes here is going to be very important. But in your estimation, losing Ronald Acuna Jr., they made the trade for Peterson the other night. How do you see this National League East? Do you see the Mets pulling away? Do you see it a jumbled mess? Is Washington kind of looming? Does Atlanta have enough? How do you kind of break down this NL East as we start to, obviously we're already underway, but this thing gets back started today?
Yeah, I think the biggest wild card is really the Phillies. That's the one team that could go one of two ways. They could continue to underwhelm, or they could get really hot and maybe take this thing. But the Mets are going to be solid. I still think that the Mets are going to be an 88 to 90 win team when all is said and done. The starting pitching is just too good. And so for me, I think that the Mets are still the clear favorite here. I think the Acuna injury to Atlanta is an absolute killer. I'm not a believer in Jock Peterson. I don't think that he even remotely makes up that difference. And I think Atlanta made that deal knowing that they have about 2 weeks to kind of figure out where they're at, and they could maybe end up flipping him before the trade deadline if they decide that that's something they want to do. I am not a believer in the Washington Nationals. They got hot for about 3 weeks. I frankly have said all along that they stink. I still believe that they stink. And the Marlins are actually an intriguing team. And as they've proven to the Phillies, they can be a real thorn in your side, but I just don't think that they're ready to make a run here.
All right, he's Bob Wankel crossing broad. Phillies, Marlins all weekend, Yankees next week, and then 4 against the Nats. They got 8 against a team that you just said stinks coming up. So maybe there's a chance to not only catch the Mets, but past the Mets if you can take advantage of a stinky Nationals team. Bob Wankel, Happy Hour Friday. By the way, your beer list was terrible.
See, you know what, man? It was a great list. It was very diverse. Listen, Corona Light, not a great beer, but in the second round, that's like one of the kings of summer beers. It was a good list. You don't know what you're talking about.
One of the kings of summer beer, the Corona Light. All right. that was good. Check out the Summer Beers Draft Crossing Broad had with Bob and all the guys over there that do a great job coming up with some fun stuff for the summer months. What did you have? The Sea Quench Ale you got with the 5th overall pick. All right.
Yeah,
not
snake
bad.
draft. I had Sequench as the 5th overall. I piggybacked it with Corona Light, but then I went, and if you haven't had it yet, man, Lawson's Finest Liquid, Sip of Sunshine, one of the best drinkable IPAs there is. It was probably the best pick of the draft. I mean, Joe Sixpack, for God's sake, he gave me the win. I mean, that guy's a beer connoisseur. He gave me the W. So. And then I came back with some Omegang, Fleur de Houblon, and what did I wrap it up with? Flying
Fish. Yeah.
Farmhouse Ale. So I thought that was pretty stellar. It showed some range on my part.
It's a good happy hour Friday read for you guys. The summer beers over at Crossing Broad. He's Bob Wankel. The Phils, of course, back in action. Summer feels right when the Phils are back. At Bob Wankel, CB, and summer feels right when we're complaining about the Phils. Bob, have a great rest of your happy hour Friday, man.
All right, Mike, I'll talk to you.
All right, he's Bob Wankel here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And we have plenty more to come, including a happy hour Friday with the PT. Jeff Kerr next hour as well. Phil's obviously a doubleheader. Phillies not putting their best foot forward with the lineup today. A couple guys out. No JT behind the plate. We did see earlier today, we talked a little bit about this a while back. Which was Aaron Nola not in the pitching rotation for the series against the Marlins. He was on the field throwing earlier, but it looks like he possibly could go next week. So Bailey Falter is off the COVID list. He was one of the guys on that list, but not Aaron Nola, so keep that in mind. All right, Sports Bash Live, the PT for Happy Hour Friday is coming up next.
The NBA Finals continue.
Booker, body by Tucker, lifts it for the rim. One shot by Giannis on the alley-oop for Tip Taylor.
After dropping games 1 and 2 in Phoenix, Giannis and the Bucks respond with 2 straight in Milwaukee. Now the series returns to Phoenix for a pivotal Game 5. Game 5 of the Suns and Bucks. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio. The NBA Finals, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's sports leader.
All right, everybody, it is Happy Hour Friday, and the PT is here. Yes, indeed, it's another Happy Hour Friday edition. Pete Thompson in the house as we have a little fun on the Friday, as always. Now, Pete Thompson, I know that you are kind of off the sacrament, right? You are basically off the sacrament. So Happy Hour Friday is a lot more fun for me than it is for you. I like to give my Happy Hour Friday IPA pick of the week. And last week I asked for people to find the Drake's Kickback. No one was able to find it. You know why? So I went to the store and I asked my buddy who, does the order. He said, can't get it in. So I got to come up with one that my people out there in the listening world can find for me. But you're not a big IPA guy, so you're no help.
IPA, ambers, golds, whatever it is. I'm sort of, it's not that I'm off the sauce per se, because when I played golf the other day for the Pete Thompson Open, I had a few Tito's and I guess it was grape juice. They were supposed to be transfusions. Have you ever had a transfusion before in your life? I've
heard of them, but I'm not a big liquor drinker.
Well, I am now because liquor doesn't. But see, the thing with the transfusion is it has club soda in it. Now that's carbonation, so that's a problem. And so I essentially just went for Tito's and then cranberry. So like a vodka cranberry, like that's not very exotic, but it is, the sacrament as you refer to it. And I had a few of those on a 91-degree day with 98% humidity, and the PT was a little tired by the time I got done.
Yeah, all right there, Peter. All right, Happy Hour Friday.
54-58 if the listeners demand to know my score.
Well, better than Phil Mickelson.
That's true. I mean, an 80 in the Open to start for Phil. I think he shot 72 today. I've been up since 5 a.m., by the way. PT's working on
did you
fumes
set
right now.
Did you set the alarm to get up for the British, or are you still, is your body clock still going?
I believe it had more to do with the fact that I was so exhausted after the golf on Wednesday that I was in bed by 9 or 9:30. And so I've just fallen into that pattern of, we watched one show last night, my lovely girlfriend and I. She was coughing the whole time. God bless her. I gave her my cold. But we watched one show and it was 9:30 and I turned the TV off and she says, "That's it? We're going to bed." I'm like, "That's it. You can stay up if you want to." And sure enough, 5 a.m. I mean, I just rolled over and it was 4:58. I'm thinking, good Lord, it's like I'm getting up for school or something. This is crazy. But hey, the Open's on.
Yep, the Open's on. Pete Thompson, of course. Happy Hour Friday. He'll be in front of the TV for that, I'm sure, all weekend long. What's a nugget about this course you can give us? You're like one of those guys. We had Cam on Rogers on earlier in the week, man. He was great. He gave us so much information on this tournament. But what's a nugget about this particular course?
It's just that even the best in the world, you can't predict where your ball's going to go when it lands. In fact, the way I would describe this course, and this is Royal St. George's, where they're at, there's a couple of Royals. There's Royal Lytham, Royal Birkdale. This is Royal St. George's. And to me, I've seen this described as pinball golf. And that would probably be the way to have it ingrained in your mind, is that even when you hit the ball down the middle, or even when you hit the ball where you want to, there's these mounds in the fairways or mounds around the greens that can kick the ball either in a good direction or in a bad direction. So sometimes the miss hits actually end up better, and sometimes the good hits actually end up poor. So, but I did say, after round one, I actually had my eye on Colin Morikawa, and he came out and had a stellar round that I almost shot a 63, which would have been a record at St. George's, but he ended up with a 64. But
not in Brigantine.
In the league. What's that?
Not in Brigantine, St. George's.
Right, not Brigantine, St. George's. That's correct. But although Brigantine is a links course, actually. I'm glad you brought it up. To be honest with you, because there aren't very many courses around here. McCullough's does its best to recreate some of the links feel, but that's the thing that American golfers don't like. In America, you tee it high, let it fly, and let it land, and that's actually part of the reason why Bryson DeChambeau's already gotten himself in hot water over there, moron. I mean, that guy, talk about a guy with no filter. He gets done round one, and what does he do? He starts bitching about his driver. And I mean, he says, "Well, my driver sucks. It's not a good face. We're trying to figure out." Are you kidding me? When he fired his caddy, do you know who the guy is that caddied for him? Ben Showman, who's the Cobra rep, like the national rep. That'd be like, for your life, you drink Coca-Cola and you go, God, Coke sucks. I really need a Pepsi right now. Like, what are you doing?
All right, Sports Mass Live, 97.3 ESPN. A lot of stuff going on, PT. I want to get your thoughts on the story the other day. I guess it was yesterday. Adam Schefter basically had come out and said that the Eagles are better positioned to trade for Deshaun Watson than any other team in football. So these Watson things are coming back, and obviously he's got all these sexual assault allegations hanging over his head. Training camp starts next week. We don't even know if they want to trade for him, but, Deshaun Watson, if he's on the field, I don't know how the expectations change, but, man, would you want Deshaun Watson here?
I mean, do I want the controversy that comes with Deshaun Watson? I don't know, but Howie doesn't, look, the Eagles have long.
Well, let me ask you this on that note.
Yes.
Odubel Herrera, similar situation. He's playing. What kind of backlash have the Phillies gotten? I don't know that it's been as much as people thought. Like, maybe there was some boos his first couple of bats, but hasn't been much more than that afterwards. And it's not like he's a great player.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. Like, I don't know that Odubel, I know you're comparing apples and oranges, but I don't know that I would compare Odubel Herrera to Deshaun Watson because
Watson's a way better player.
Right, a way better player. So, and remember, the Eagles weren't afraid to go out and sign Michael Vick when the entire league had ostracized Michael Vick and said he should never play football again, and what he did was unforgivable. I'm a big believer in second chances.
You and I were on the air that day.
We were. Wasn't that two things happened that day, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Michael Jackson, the singer, died, and Michael Vick was an Eagle, or was that within that same summer of those shows that we did? I thought it was the same.
I believe it was, yes. And we were doing the shows at the old Hilton Beach Bar.
Yeah. I still see that guy from time to time. The one guy that was like the audio guy that got paid like $50 an hour just to make sure that our mics worked?
Yep.
He had a good gig. He always has that smile. I can't remember his name, of course, but every time when I am in a casino or I am somewhere where there's like a function, he's still, rocking it. And he was always good to us.
Well, let's go back to then the question at hand here.
To your question. Yes. I apologize. To your question.
Thank you, Peter.
So your question was.
You didn't even have the sacrament.
Do I think? Well, but I've been up since 5. I told you I'm running on fumes. Do I think that Deshaun Watson would be a help to the Eagles? Yes. You better tell me the question again. I forgot already.
If you just get Deshaun Watson, how do the expectations for this team change? Right now, the expectations are, I would say, seemingly pretty low.
Right. And I think especially nationally, I think the expectations are higher locally for the team, people that follow it on a regular basis. If you get him, I think instantly your fan base is thinking playoffs. But I think the thing that they're not looking at is, here we go again. What if Jalen Hurts didn't show anything that makes you look like he's the MVP of the league, but he also didn't show you anything like he's terrible either. Aren't you going to give the guy a chance even? If you're getting Deshaun Watson, then that instantly means that he's looking over his shoulder. Jalen Hurts is every single day. There's no other way.
No. He's not looking over his shoulder. He's sitting on the bench. He's not playing over Deshaun Watson.
That's my point. So
what do you care if he's?
But you didn't even give the guy a chance. If
that's inconsequential, though, Peter. Well, you're bringing in a guy who threw for.
No, that's not inconsequential. What if Jalen Hurts is actually better fit to what Sirianni's offense is supposed to be?
Well, that's a different.
You have no idea, and
that's a hard sell for me, dude.
Well, not only that. Again, to go back to the initial Deshaun Watson conversation, we are talking about an if, an hypothetical, a maybe, a woulda, a possibly.
The man threw. Listen, the guy last year threw for almost 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions.
Yeah,
I like Hurts.
Your offense will be better.
I like Hurts. I'm not saying I think he's going to stink. I'm not saying he's a bum. I'm intrigued, and I said, look. I think the ceiling for Hurts, I'm not saying he is going to be a Pro Bowler, but I think if he played his best, he might be a Pro Bowl level quarterback. Deshaun Watson's an MVP level player. That's a difference.
But you know what this feels like to me, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but this feels just like the conversation that we had as Sixers followers or fans when Harden was dangled out there. Would you trade this? Would you trade this to get James Harden? Right. Well, the Sixers elected not to go on that move to get James Harden. For better or worse, for richer or poorer, sickness and health, whatever they did not go out and get James Harden. And there are a lot of people that were okay with that because they didn't like James Harden as a person. I think you'll find equally the same number of people that, if the allegations or everything is true about Deshaun Watson, don't want Deshaun Watson to be the Eagles quarterback.
That's a good point. Now, let me ask you this. Are those the keyboard warriors, or is that the sentiment of a fan base?
Probably more the keyboard warriors. I would agree with that. And winning is that salve or that balm that fixes everything. You know, if Deshaun Watson came in and they got off to some big rip-roaring part. But again, this is so hypothetical because, you just have no idea when a decision's going to be made about his future, and it's all up to Houston.
Definitely true. Now, what Adam Schefter said was he believes there's no team better positioned to trade for Deshaun Watson than Philadelphia. Mike Tannenbaum furthered that by saying it's the worst kept secret in the league that the Eagles have interest in Watson. The best case scenario for me, Peter, is Watson doesn't play this year. The Eagles get a chance to evaluate Hurts and then can make a decision. Hey, did we like Hurts enough to keep him? Or did we see enough from him to say we're not sold? We can make an offer to go get this guy who we think is a MVP level player.
Right. I'm fully on board with that, too. And then you left out the part where you're hoping that Carson Wentz has a good season so that the Eagles end up with an additional first-round draft pick, so they have even more ammunition to be able to both evaluate Hurts, figure out what they want to do on Watson if Watson becomes available. And thank you, number 11, you gave us something on the way out of town. You played up to your expectations in Indy and got the Eagles a first-round pick.
I want to switch over to Ben Simmons. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I know that guy. He's over at Wimbledon watching the tennis, and he's buying mansions out in L.A. and distancing himself from the Sixers fan base. Yeah,
on a recent edition of the Greg Cody Show podcast, Israel Gutierrez, who is an ESPN NBA insider and sideline reporter, said, quote, "People don't like Ben Simmons in the league. His teammates don't like Ben. There's just something about him. He is an unlikable dude. And in that locker room, he's unlikable." That doesn't seem to be – that's a scathing comment, don't you think?
Yeah, and that's the first time that I've heard more, I guess, pointed details about him not being like – look, it's one thing for the fan base not to like him. I think players tend to protect players even when they may not see eye to eye or always vibe with a guy. But I thought in the playoffs when Simmons passed up the dunk and Joel Embiid basically threw him under the bus in the post-game interviews, I thought that was the first time that you truly saw, hey, man, like I can't defend that. There was no way that Joel Embiid could come out and sugarcoat what Ben Simmons did. And I think that's why there's such a frenzy and furor, if you will, over Ben Simmons, because sure, he can get you a triple-double every single night. But when a guy flat out costs your team a game or a clinching moment and comes up the way that he did in the playoffs, I think that's like the unforgivable sin.
Pete Thompson here on a happy hour Friday, as of course we go through a bunch of things, have a little fun. And what's on the PT's agenda this weekend? You just sitting and watching the Open?
Well, the Open, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on the Phillies and see how they do coming out of the gate here. Are they actually going to make some move? Are they going to do anything? I think we're going to try to catch up with, of course, I'm working with Billy on Sunday, and we're going to try to catch up with Bill Meltzer and find out what Chuck Fletcher's mindset is. The last time you and I talked on Tuesday, you had said that Chuck had put some stuff out. And, of course, his comments were, trade deadline's coming up, but or the NHL expansion draft is what I'm trying to say is coming up, and how's that going to shake out? Who are they going to leave unprotected and whatnot?
You guys had Jimmy Johnson on last week.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. Now Michael Jordan, the video of him coming out of Stephen Cookie's in Margate the other night, a buddy of mine said that Jordan was on his yacht or his boat the other day. He called Stephen Cookie's again and ordered food, and they delivered it over to him.
Oh, there you go. Well, he's a creature of habit. Once he finds something that works, he's not going to move from it. I don't know about you, but I found it very interesting to see the number of people that have tried to grab an image of Michael Jordan, albeit a picture or whatever. In fact, one guy, I think his wife works over at the marina. But she was like too chicken. So the first picture he sent me, he was like, yeah, this is the best she got. And she said, zoom in. And I zoomed in. And then I could kind of see this stick figure, and I put a little red arrow on it and sent it back to him. And he goes, I know, right? She's over there. She should get a better picture. But I'm starting to see more images of him. I saw the Stephen Cookie stuff the other night. I saw him on his boat. Smoking a bit. I swear to God, the guy should own a cigar company. I don't think I've ever seen him without a cigar in his mouth. Don't you think?
He's always been a big cigar guy, but the video that he was coming out the other night, he had this cigar in his mouth. He's in town for that Jimmy Johnson fishing. You guys had Jimmy Johnson on.
Mm-hmm.
I like the story about how he did mend fences with Buddy Ryan over the years. That was kind of interesting to hear. And obviously Jimmy is in town for that fishing.
The thing, what I took away from that, Gil, was that I guess I disrespected Jimmy's talent ability. He talked about the fact that everybody brings up, and Billy, of course, was trying to bring up that mentality of the Cowboys were only good because of the Herschel Walker trade. That was the trade that put them on the map. Yeah, that got him good players, but he said he traded for 54 guys in his time as coach / GM of the Cowboys at a time when nobody did trades. Al Davis might have done it. He had a couple trading guys that he could go to, but 54, and the Cowboys were pretty damn good when Jimmy Johnson was there. So I had a respect for him, realizing hey, you know what? This guy was probably a pretty good talent evaluator.
All right. Happy Hour Friday with the PT, and we always have fun. Good stuff. You watching The Bachelorette this season, Peter?
No, dude. I've never watched a single episode of that. I think the last time I watched a reality show that had anything to do with love and romance was that Joe Millionaire, when they told the girls the guy was a millionaire on Fox and he really wasn't.
You know what you need to watch? On Vice. You ever watch Vice?
I've seen Vice.
All right. They have the dark side of all these things. It's dark side of 90s TV. Last night was about the evolution of the Jerry Springer show and all those daytime talk shows.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm into that
and
stuff.
They're saying that those daytime talk shows, Jerry Springer, Montel, Jenny Jones, all those were the precursor to reality television.
Okay, I could see that. You are not the father, or all
I think
that.
The first, the first episode was last night.
Boring.
It's called Dark Side of the 90s,
and it's on Vice
TV.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
history
of late night was on CNN recently. You could look that up
if
you're into the late night stuff.
That was a little different. That was
and then history of the sitcom. They've only had one so far, or two, I guess, last Sunday. So those are on Sundays.
Yeah, so it's they have Dark Side of the Ring, which is wrestling stories. They have Dark Side of the Football, NFL, which is football related stuff.
I should take my cap off for Mr. Wonderful here.
Yeah, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff passed away earlier this week. That's right, Peter.
That was my moment of silence for Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
All right, that's it. Happy Hour Friday's in the books, Peter.
All right, buddy.
All right, have a
great weekend.
All right, Pete Thompson here on a Happy Hour Friday here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, coming up, we'll talk a little NFL with Jeff Kerr. We'll get his take on whether the Eagles should consider Deshaun Watson. And he did his all 30 and over defensive team. 2 Eagles are on it. 1 Eagle over 30 did not make the list. But a free agent corner was on that list. We'll talk to him about that and more. Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports and 97.3 ESPN.com joins me on the other side. This is a Happy Hour Friday here on the Sports Bash.
No matter the mileage, no matter the make, no matter what you owe, Medlet Kia wants your vehicle today. Even if you don't want to buy a new car from us, we need to replenish our inventory, so we need your vehicle, no matter the situation. Stuck in a loan or lease, Medlet Kia wants to get you released. Get cash for your car today. 75% of Kelly Blue Book fair market value, even if you don't buy a car from us. However, if you are looking for a new ride, take advantage of New Jersey Charge Up Incentive Program. Get 10 grand off on all brand new 2020 Nero EV, all 2021 Kia Souls, $1,500 cash back, or pay 0 interest for 60 months on every Kia Sportage, Forte, and Stinger.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 per 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 8/6/2021.
Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 973ESPN.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to a happy hour Friday of the Sports Bash. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, 97.3 ESPN.com. He'll be covering the Eagles this year. We have plenty of Eagles stuff to dive into tonight with Jeff as training camp almost here. Jeff, it'll be the 27th, just 2 Tuesdays from today, and the Eagles will be back at the NovaCare complex. Looking forward to it, man.
Hey, Mike, I can't wait. You know what? With the humidity rising and the temperatures going up, it's starting to get that feeling. I know we're in mid-July right now. I think everybody's craving for football, and look, the Cowboys and Steelers, they start next week, so it's coming.
Here we go. Well, the news is starting to get out there. As many people heard this week, Adam Schefter believes there is room believes there is no team better positioned to trade for Deshaun Watson. Now, he adds that he's unsure if the Texans are ready to deal Watson at this point. They want to try to regenerate his value following this offseason sexual assault allegations. It's not a given that they will trade him, but Schefter believes there's no team better positioned than Philadelphia. So obviously the draft capital they have. He also mentioned they have depth at certain positions. So how do you read into what Schefter said, which was followed up by Mike Tannenbaum, who was Howie Roseman's roommate at Florida, who said it's no secret that the Eagles are in on Watson?
Well, it wasn't a surprise when Schefter said, like, no team is better positioned with draft capital than the Eagles. Like, if you've been following the NFL, you know Eagles have 2 first-round picks next year, potentially 3, depending on what Carson Wentz does. So that wasn't a surprise. I didn't think that was a report, but it's Schefter, so everybody just runs with it. But, yeah, the Tannenbaum thing, that doesn't surprise me one bit, too, just because with Tannenbaum's connections with Roseman, as you said, Mike. And to me, it is, okay, so are the Eagles actually going to go after this guy now, or are they going to wait and see what they got on Jalen Hurts till after the year? And, you know what, my head was spinning when it happened because I'm like, all right, the Eagles just can't go 1 year with just being quiet. And I think it's more of a Howie Roseman thing. Everybody expects Howie Roseman to make a big move. He hasn't made a big move in a while. I mean, Darius Slay was his last big move, I guess, if you want to call it that. But, yeah, Howie Roseman's always looking at the trademark. He's always looking to improve this roster, even though this year is kind of more of a transition year than anything else. But the Eagles have this crusade they want to do where they want to win the NFC East and go to the playoffs and get extra revenue for that playoff game. And here's the difference, though. You need that franchise quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And I think Deshaun Watson is that guy that can actually do that for him.
The interesting part about this, obviously, is the baggage that he brings. How will that be received by the organization and the fans? I mean, polarizing. We post the article up on social media. Are they the social media keyboard warriors, or is that the sentiment of a fan base that they wouldn't want this guy with this baggage?
I think they are. I think it's the keyboard warriors. And honestly, Mike, that's what bothers me about some things sometimes. Like, nobody ever lets anything breathe anymore. It's more of, okay, we're going to listen to these guys with no names, no faces, with the egg-shaped avatars, and they control our society. And it's, unfortunate. But again, I'm just going to look at it this way with Deshaun Watson. I don't know enough to make a determination on what he's done. From what I've read, I don't like what I'm reading, and I'm very concerned. But we've seen the Eagles do this before with Michael Vick. A lot of people were upset when they brought Michael Vick in, and Michael Vick was actually convicted of what he did, and that was killing dogs. And we saw the 30 for 30. And I said to you earlier, I thought Michael Vick was a jerk. This is before the whole dog fighting thing. I thought he was a jerk. I thought he was brash. I thought he was arrogant. But I was willing to give him a chance. And, if I had Twitter in 2009, I probably would tweet something really stupid about it that I probably regret now because I just did not like Michael Vick. And, I was willing to give him a second chance. And I'm glad I did because from that first press conference, I said, Prison must have really humbled the guy because I saw a humble guy who was willing to learn. I thought he was a guy that, learned, I thought he was remorseful for what he did. And, when I watched the 30 for 30 and everything else, it seemed like he just didn't know how bad the situation was until it became bad because he just came from, a different environment. And, I got to give Michael Vick all the credit in the world. He rebuilt his image with the Eagles, and the Eagles did a really good job at helping him rebuild his image. And I kind of hope if they trade for Deshaun Watson, I kind of hope it's the same scenario. But Deshaun Watson has to be willing to change too. And that's the thing. I just don't know if he's willing to do that.
Yeah, we don't know enough about Deshaun Watson. Obviously, these allegations are out there. We don't even know if they will materialize. There's a lot of limbo with the whole situation. Let's ask this. This is a sports show. Let's take the outside noise out and look on the field. If the Eagles were to bring Deshaun Watson in before this season starts, how much does that change the expectations of this 2021 team?
For me, NFC East, you should be the favorites in the NFC East. You should win the NFC East with Deshaun Watson as your quarterback. You have a pretty good running back rotation already with Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell. I think the wide receivers are on point. Devonta Smith, Jalen Reagor. I think Jalen Reagor immediately improves with Deshaun Watson no matter what. And you're already including that offense in there. You have Zach Ertz. You have Dallas Goedert, who, by the way, ESPN ranked him higher than Zach Ertz on their top 10 tight ends list, which is incredible. And you have an offensive line that was good before they got injured, and you have depth on that offensive line. We still don't know about the defense yet, but the NFC East isn't strong. Like, Washington's defense is really good. Dallas has Dak Prescott, but overall, Deshaun Watson's going to be the best quarterback in that division. I expect the Eagles to win the NFC East if they were to acquire him.
If they were to get Watson. So, and this is what I kind of said yesterday, Jeff, see if you agree. Like, I like Hurts. I'm interested in Hurts. I'm intrigued by what he might be. But to me, Hurts at his optimum, let's say he's a Pro Bowler. He makes the Pro Bowl. He's not better than Deshaun Watson, right? At his best, he is not. At Hurts' best, he will not be better than Watson, even if Hurts exceeds all expectations.
So this is how I kind of look at the quarterback situation in football. I'm a NASCAR fan. I see this all the time with NASCAR rides when guys lose their rides. Penske just had one. The Wood Brothers, Matt DiBenedetto, good driver, made the playoffs last year, but he's never won a race. They decided to ditch him and sign Jeff Burton's kid. He has a lot more potential, and he's 20 years old. That's how I look at Deshaun Watson. There's more potential there. The ceiling is higher. I don't know what Jalen Hurts' ceiling is. I think Jalen Hurts can be a good quarterback, potentially a great quarterback, but I already know Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback. I already know Deshaun Watson can lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl, if that's possible. I think he's that good. I don't know about Jalen Hurts. That's why I kind of want him to sit the bench a bit and wait and see what 2021 brings, because I don't want to be that guy who just writes off Jalen Hurts. I want Jalen Hurts to get a fair shot. But at the same time, I also think if you have a chance to get Deshaun Watson for a low price, I think you got to do it.
It'll be interesting. Now, they talk about the ability that they are a better position. They have the draft capital. Schefter also mentioned that they're deep in certain areas. I would imagine offensive line. Hey, we have a guy like Andre Dillard, who was a first-round pick. We've got Isaac Seumalo, who was a fourth-round pick, was very, solid last year. They drafted Landon Dickerson. So they can include a starting offensive lineman. Maybe they throw in a guy like Rieger or something. I don't know. But he's saying they are one of the best positioned teams. And one of the other things that he mentioned, Jeff, was that they're out of the conference. So if Miami's the next best positioned team, Philly would have that check mark that we're an NFC team, you're an AFC team. They might like our offer a little bit better.
Exactly. It's like Carson Wentz going to the Colts. You're just never going to see him. Like, when's the next time the Texans are going to see Deshaun Watson play against them? The Eagles last played Texans in 2018. So, okay, you see them next year. He comes to Houston. Big deal. He sees them once every 8 years based on the NFL's rotation for. So, yeah, you're right, Ma. And, you mentioned the Isaac Seumalo thing. We mentioned Landon Dickerson. There's another guy that's a pretty good guard for the Eagles last year we found out, Nate Herbig. He could easily start for this team. So, yeah, you have collateral there. You have Isaac Seumalo. You have whoever loses the left tackle competition, Jordan Mailata, Andre Dillard, whoever it is. But, yeah, Andre Dillard's obviously more intriguing because he was a first-round pick. Oh, by the way, as you remember, the Texans wanted Andre Dillard. Do you remember that? Remember, they wanted to draft him, and the Eagles jumped them and got him, and they had to sell for Tyus Howard. So they could get a chance to bring back Andre Dillard and maybe revitalize his career. I don't even think his career needs revitalization right now. I just think we need to see the kid on the field. So, yeah, the Eagles do have definitely offensive line, which is very valuable in the NFL. They have collateral there. They have some depth on the defensive line. If they really wanted to go that route, they could. And they have the draft picks. They have, at the very worst, 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. That's got to be enticing for a Texans team that hasn't had a first-round pick in several seasons.
All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, 97.3 ESPN.com. He'll be covering the Eagles this year. And over at CBS Sports, you wrote about the all-over-30 defensive team, and 2 Eagles were on that list. 1, Brandon Graham, 2, Fletcher Cox. 1 guy who's 30 that did not make the list was Darius Slay. He did not make your first team or your second team. There was 1 guy on that list who is a free agent, and that's Drake Kirkpatrick. So I asked you, Jeff Kerr, if Slay's on one side, you thought Kirkpatrick was better than Slay last year, shouldn't you be picking up the phone for him? He's got to be readily available.
You would think, and this is my concern with this. I think too many people watch the film with the Cardinals and him playing in that man scheme with Vance Joseph. You're doomed to fail. I mean, look what Patrick Peterson. I still think Patrick Peterson's a really good quarterback. Oh, by the way, he's a coworker of mine, and I just feel like he got the shaft in free agency because of that defense and how they run things. That's why they had to bring in Malcolm Butler, because he's a better man corner than Dre Kirkpatrick or Patrick Peterson. So let's put Dre Kirkpatrick in his own, who, by the way, had better numbers than Darius Slay last year. I don't want to say he was a better cornerback than him, but he was more consistent across the board, and I went off 2020 performance. Darius Slay, he had a good year last year, don't get me wrong, but maybe it was the scheme he was in. I don't know. That's way, way, way above my pay grade. I would have to talk to several NFL coaches about that. But I do think if I had to do this list next year, Darius Slay would definitely be on it. It was just more of, okay, Dre Kirkpatrick and Darius Slay were neck and neck, and I went by expectation. Well, expectation is Darius Slay should be a top cornerback in the league. Dre Kirkpatrick is not. So, again, if you're going off expectations there, Dre Kirkpatrick outperformed him.
Agree. Well, I'll say this. I agree with you that I can't decipher, looking at these two guys individually, say who had the better year. But I'll ask you this question, much like Watson. If you get Dre Kirkpatrick, how does your expectations for the Eagles defense change?
Well, they at least have someone who I believe can start opposite Darius Slay. I think that makes Avonte Max's job easier because then he could potentially play that hybrid safety role, slot corner. I think that makes Zach McPherson's job easier because you're not throwing him into the fire right away. Again, I'm not against that. I just don't want to see the kid fail and then the Eagles give up on him like they give up on everybody else. I once thought Macho Harris was a decent prospect, and they started him and played Brian Dawkins right away, and it just didn't work out, and the kid's career was over. So, that's the worry I have. It's not Monte Max, it's Zach McPherson. I want this team to have depth at cornerback. I think they have potential. I don't think they have depth. And Dre Kirkpatrick, at the very least, gives them that.
All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports on this Happy Hour Friday. We'll see if Howie Roseman makes a move and brings in a corner. Does he try to keep going after Steven Nelson? We don't know that he actually is, but he would be the best option. Or does he say, you know what, I'll go under the radar with a guy like Dre Kirkpatrick, pair him up with Slay, put two veterans on my corners. We mentioned it, Jeff. Tampa Bay Bucks won the Super Bowl last year with a veteran defense. They had a lot of guys in their 30s on that Super Bowl. Real quick, you wrote about this over at CBS Sports. Tom Brady last year, MCL, still won the Super Bowl. Unbelievable.
He threw the most touchdown passes
of any player with an MCL tear.
In his first year with his new team, and he on a torn MCL wins the Super Bowl. Any way that guy finds out how to make a goat step. You know what? We have a movie coming out today, Space Jam: A New Legacy. They should have made a movie with Tom Brady and the Looney Tunes. That's what they should have did. No disrespect to LeBron. They should have made one with Brady. It would have been just like Michael Jordan in the original Space Jam. It would have been awesome.
Yeah. All right. Jeff Kerr is with us. Good stuff here. That's funny. Yeah, they maybe should have, instead of LeBron, they put Tom Brady in that movie. All right, Jeff Kerr, Friday edition. He'll be back on Monday. We are less than 2 weeks away now from Eagles training camp. Starts the 27th. Jeff will be at the NovaCare Complex reporting all season long on the Eagles. You can get his coverage right here on the Sports Bash over at 97.3 ESPN.com at Jeff Kerr, CBS. And, of course, he'll be back Monday with more on the NFL and the Eagles. Jeff, have a great rest of your Happy Hour Friday and weekend, my man.
I'll tell you what, Mike, I really cannot wait for July 27th. I'm like, when I play football, I'm going to be like that first day of practice. You're going to sniff the grass. I remember I would be the guy running down in the field yelling. And I was the guy most tired at the end of the practice, but I was the guy running down the field like, let's go, season starting. And then you hate it like the second the first practice is over.
Yep. Well, get your ankles taped, get your eye black on, and let's get ready to cover the Eagles for the 2021 season. All right, Jeff, take care, man.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan, now open Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Visit them online at mattblattnissan.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. And don't forget, we'll wrap up the show. Josh has game night tonight. And then we've got The Phillies, of course, going on with the double disco right now. We'll have all that on Monday. Plus, as we mentioned, the start of Eagles training camp. We'll wrap up the show coming up on the other side. Don't go away. Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Download the free app wherever you get your apps in the Apple Store or Google Play.
The NBA Finals continue.
Booker, bodied by Tucker, lifts it for the rim. One shot by Giannis on the alley-oop for Tip Taylor.
After dropping games 1 and 2 in Phoenix, Giannis and the Bucks respond with 2 straight in Milwaukee. Now the series returns to Phoenix for a pivotal Game 5. Game 5 of the Suns and Bucks. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The NBA Finals, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's sports leader.
On some models excludes Corvette with GM financing, excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
By now, most people know that nobody beats a Bennett Chevrolet deal. Because when you buy a new Chevy from Bennett, you pay the same as any GM supplier employee pays. That's right, not 1 cent more. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates that can add up to 25% off MSRP. That's up to 25% off. And of course, Bennett Chevy has 0% financing available. Think about all the ways you save at Bennett Chevrolet. Plus, right now, we want your trade. So we're paying a minimum $7,000 for any clunker. You heard right, a minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. Nobody pays more than Bennett. You can imagine how much more we'll pay for a good trade. And there's more. You'll never feel any sales pressure and never waste time with stressful negotiating because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet, and we mean nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Ask Sherwin-Williams and get your color your way. We've made it easier than ever to try and buy color. Preview paint colors in your home with our Color Snap app. Then visit swsamples.com to have color chips delivered to your door for free. Or order some peel and stick samples to try on your wall. When you're ready to paint, shop online or stop by your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store and get everything you need.
To celebrate State Farm's surprisingly great rates, we gave this song surprisingly great lyrics.
Hey neighbors, when your claims get hard to file, State Farm's how to switch it up style. Great rates save you cash, so if you come join us, you'll get your coins up. Oh, now you know you can save that dough. And you're covered on your ride and your home. For great service on the low, then call up State Farm. It's time to switch it up.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. How do you keep a workout fresh every day?
Clap it up, Peloton. Let's do this.
By getting everything from endurance rides to restorative yoga, all right at home. The Peloton bike. Nothing like working out from home. Visit onepeloton.com to learn more.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, getting ready to wrap up a happy hour Friday show, but a good show today. Appreciate everybody who has been a part of the show, everybody who's listened, texted in, took the time out of your day to be a part of the show. You have a lot of options out there. We know we always appreciate when you take the time to text, call, and just watch and consume our show. It's it's a Friday edition. We've got a lot going on. We like to call it Happy Hour Friday. We like to keep it a little fun. We like to keep it a little light. Pete Thompson back there. Good conversation with Bob Wankel at the end of the 4 o'clock hour as we talked about his beers. I get asked so much about beer, right? The IPAs of the week. We usually give one out. I haven't given one out yet for the weekend. So what I will do is give you a bunch of beer options, right, for this weekend. We are now in the summer. The 4th of July is past us, and I get asked all the time about which are the low-cal, low-carb beers that are the best ones to go for. So I have put together a list of a bunch of different things for you guys that you can kind of take a look at this weekend. And what I want from you, though, okay, what I want from you is a report. See, if I'm going to give you – now, you could go out there and get the regular stuff. Your Coors Lights, your Miller Lights, your Michelob Ultras, your Corona Lights, like Bob Wankel mentioned, all that stuff. You could go that route. But a lot of people will always ask me, what about the IPAs? All right, what are some of the IPAs that won't derail you, that you can still enjoy? So I have a couple that I am going to throw your way that we can throw off this weekend. And the number one on my list that I still enjoy to this day, it's still the one that's my favorite one out there. The problem is it is so easy to drink that you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble. And that is the Lagunitas Daytime IPA. It is 3 carbs, right? 98 calories. And this is a great beer to drink on the beach. So if you're going to the beach this weekend, it's supposed to be finally we're supposed to have a pretty good weekend, I think. And, tomorrow is supposed to be like a sunny day, not too hot, like 85 degrees. So if you're hanging out the beach, the Lagunitas Daytime is probably my number one recommendation. Now, a lot of people always ask me about the Dogfish Head Slightly Mighty IPA. So when people come to my house, like if we have guests over and they come to my house and they want to bring a beer, it's like, hey, we're hanging out at your house. We want to bring you something. People always bring me the Dogfish Head Slightly Mighty. I don't love it, but people like it. It is 3.6 carbs. It is 95 calories. It is drinkable. Like if you told me, when I first started doing the keto, that was the beer that really I found first. And I was like, look, if I can't drink, regular IPAs, this will do. It will suffice. It's not my favorite, but it's a good one to try if you want to start. All right. It is a solid one, and you can get it pretty much everywhere. The Lagunitas Daytime, that one's getting easier to find, but it is still, you gotta, it's not like it's stocked up. You might go to a place and they might only have a handful of them. So those are 2 that you can get readily, easily. All right. So a couple other ones for the people out there. There's another one out there that is called the Oney. Oscar Blues Oney. 1Y, Oney. I don't know how they pronounce it. My cousin says it's Oney. I've said 1Y. He says it's Oney. So whatever it is. It's in a yellow can. It is pretty easily acceptable. You can, or easy to find. You can probably find that beer in a lot of different liquor stores. They have it around. Oscar Blues is a pretty well-known place, brewery. So you could probably get that in a bunch of different spots. I told you last week, the Drake's Kickback. Now, I have not been able to find that beer in very many places. That has been the problem. So I have not been able to really find it. But if you could find the Drake's Kickback, that is one that I certainly recommend for the people out there who are looking for a low-carb, low-cal, now, keto-friendly beer. Now, what I asked of all the people, okay, the people who are listening to this and are like, all right, these are helpful, right? These are ones that I can really use. Okay, these beers, now I'm doing this, because a lot of people always keep asking me. I keep getting asked about, hey, can you give me some more beers? Can you give me some to kind of add to the collection? Because that's what I'm doing. I keep trying to add to my collection. Like, it's funny. I will always go to the Lagunitas Daytime. Right? That is kind of my go-to one, is the Lagunitas Daytime. When I can't find something. But there's a couple other ones, okay? If you're a fan of the Victory Brewery, Victory has a beer called Easy Ringer. I'm not a huge fan of it, but if you like Victory, the problem for me, it's a little too malty. That's my issue with it. It's a little too malty for my liking. But my buddy likes it. 96 calories, low carb as well, 3 grams of carbs. It's called Easy Ringer. You can get it pretty much everywhere because Victory is an easy beer. 6 Point Trail Haze is another one, 99 calories. I'm not 100% sure of the carbs on that, but it's like one of the thinner cans, kind of like a Truly or Vizzy. It's kind of like a can like that, but it's called 6 Point is the brewery, and Trail Haze is the beer. I don't mind it. I liked it at the beginning, and then I kind of went off of it a little bit. I probably have to try it again. Summit makes a beer called Triumphant, 95 calories, 3.5 carbs. I haven't been able to find it anywhere. If you find it anywhere, let me know. A couple other ones. There's one, Sufferfest Gut Check, 100 calories, 6 carbs. I've never had it, but my buddy has it, and he says it's really good. Goose Island makes one called Solo, 98 calories. I think the problem with that beer, it's very low ABV, which is like 3%. Which means you get yourself into trouble. Well, not trouble. You just end up drinking so many of them because they're so easy to drink. The Oscar Blues 1 I told you about, that's 100 calories, easy to drink, a yellow can. You can find that. Another one is Deschutes Wowza. I haven't been able to find this beer anywhere, although I'm starting to see Deschutes come around. Firestone Walker, Flyjack 96. I used to really like this beer. I don't know what happened to my taste buds, that they have changed so much that I really don't like it that much anymore. But I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try to drink it first as opposed to like the second beer and try to maybe get my taste buds going that way. Citrusy, hazy, very crisp. It's 96 calories, hence the Flyjack 96. I really liked it last summer. It was my favorite beer of last summer. I don't know what happened. If you're a fan of Bell's Two Hearted, they have a beer called Bell's Lighthearted. Really good. The problem with that is it is a little bit more, it's 110 calories, and I think it's about 8 carbs. So I kind of try to stay away from that one. I try to not indulge in that one as much if I'm going with the, that route. So those are some low-cal, low-carb, IPA, keto-friendly beers that I have kind of thrown into the mix. I do have a couple of other ones that are in the mix. I mentioned the Drake's Kickback a couple of weeks ago that nobody was able to find. Wee Demon is from Two Roads. It's got the little devil on it, and he's got the hops all over. That is one that you can find at a couple of places. Cigar City High Low. Now, if you've drank the High Lie, they have a beer. It's in an orange can called High Low, and I enjoy it. It's a pretty good one. That one you will like if you like the low-cal, low-carb offerings. And I think that's a good amount right there to kind of get you started. The Hazy Pup is the one that I have been telling you guys about. I have not been able to find it anywhere. I still have not been able to find it anywhere out there. So if anybody knows where it is, if anybody can find it, let me know. 609-403-0973. You can always text me. Let me know where you've got, where you're finding some of the stuff that I'm laying down for you, because some of these I can't find anywhere. I've been looking around, just have not been able to find them. Now, new stuff keeps coming out. New stuff keeps kind of becoming more readily available. So if you guys can help me out, I always look for the help. I always appreciate it. But I do appreciate, I'll be honest with you, I love talking about the brewskis. I love talking about where to find them. We were thinking about putting together a podcast to help people find things, take suggestions from people, do all that kind of stuff. And I just haven't had the time to do it. Like, hey, sit down and do a podcast on it. That's why it's amazing how many people, right, have been like, hey, man, you helped me out with the beers. Thank you so much. Hey, I appreciate when you guys text me in beers, when you guys text me in stuff that I can kind of find around out there. So on the Happy Hour Friday, I do appreciate, having a little fun. We had so much to talk about today. We want to thank everybody who listened to the show, as always. Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I figure on this Friday with the summertime here that we would kind of have a little fun with the Happy Hour Friday. We talk a little brewskis, get ready for the weekend. It's my friend's wife's birthday. So I'm trying to think about which Happy Hour Friday IPA that I'm going to, introduce them to for this weekend. It's funny. I'll bring different randos over to my buddy and he'll just kind of like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, anyone that I don't like, he's the one that like kind of takes from me. So a lot of these that I've tried, and if I don't like them, because some of them you try and you just don't like them. There's one called Gym Time. I don't know who makes it. I forget. But there's one called Gym Time that I think is worth trying out. You can get it at a couple different places around here. But feel free at any point. And look, I do appreciate when people ask me about it. It is fun. I like the fact that, hey, I hear you talking. What do you think about this one? I will continue to do that for you guys. So if you have ones that I'm not getting, if you have ones that are out there, let me know. 609-403-0973. All right, that'll about do it for me on the Happy Hour Friday. Josh has game night coming up next. He's going to talk a little Phils with Frank Close as they are getting ready for the double disco. I want to thank my guest today, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, Suzie Hunter, who has continued her ballpark tour. Football 4, of course, with Adam Caplan, Bob Wankel, PT, Jeff Kerr, everybody out there. Don't forget, tomorrow, Best of the Sports Bash, followed by The Locker Room with Billy Schweim, and then, of course, Sports Bash Saturday. Game night with Josh is coming up next. I am Mike Gill. This has been the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.